well, hot take. I think Aliens is trash.
I don't love it, but I adore Alien.
So we're talking about
It's
Star
the only
Wars,
one
right?
I haven't seen.
What are we doing now?
We're just bullshitting for like a solid 30 minutes.
That's the rules, like, right?
Yeah. While you guys are doing that, I'm finishing my popcorn sandwich.
Is that legitimately what you're eating right now?
Mm-hmm.
You know it is.
Oh my god!
Hot flaming hot popcorn.
Just carb. I've never seen.
Don't you have like a soon-to-be wife? Like, how is she not taking care of you? How is she letting you eat like this?
This is it. So when we were moving out of the fucking 32nd Street apartment or whatever, like Tanner and like Travis and like Troy, a bunch of people came over and we had nothing in the apartment because it was like the week before we were moving out. And fucking Travis was high as hell and went into our kitchen and was looking through our fridge and fucking was like, "Oh, dude, frozen waffle," and just pulled the waffle out. And I was like, "Yeah, you can eat it or whatever you want," and just ate it. Like, just put chocolate syrup on it, completely frozen, and fucking ate the waffle. Didn't even toast it.
Yep.
And then he took a tortilla, dumped ranch on it, rolled it like a burrito, and ate it.
I have done the tortilla when you need to eat, and you just put usually I'll try to put like cheese and maybe ketchup on it, roll it up, eat it.
Did you just say cheese and ketchup in a tortilla?
Yeah, it's basically a cheese crisp with tortilla, but this was ranch.
With ketchup?
That's a dry quesadilla with
you're not
tomatoes.
melting the cheese. It's just cold cheese and ketchup in a tortilla. That sounds perfectly normal, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, I'm just saying I understand the man.
That might be worse. That might be worse than the ranch in the tortilla roll up.
Hello and welcome to Nothing to Play Reviews. It's just a video format of basically the normal podcast, but we're gonna be ranking all the Star Wars movies, not the Christmas special, because that's not, I don't count that as a movie, and I don't think many other people do either. Like legitimate movies, episodes 1 through 9, and then we're gonna throw in Solo and Rogue One. And to do this, I have all your favorite people from the other assorted podcast episodes. I'm just gonna go down in order from the video here. We got Troy Smith, Maddie Martin, Tanner Coach, and Bean Dip.
Great.
Coach
from the closet.
Yeah, I had to. Yeah, in the closet. Everyone put up their Star Wars Zoom backgrounds. Looks great.
My computer does not support Zoom backgrounds.
I'm wearing a Batman t-shirt. That's I'm still
wearing
gonna represent DC.
I'm wearing a Guardians shirt from Disneyland, the Tavon Corporation.
I saved my pork shirt specifically for this podcast. Represent.
Look at that. All right.
You haven't worn it any other time?
No, I wear it all the time, but I specifically didn't wear it earlier this week, so it would be clean for today.
Fuck you, Matt. All right, so as usual, per the other tier lists and stuff that we've done in the past for Marvel and DC movies, our categories are going to be God tier, great, pretty good, decent, watchable, and unwatchable. And I figured before we would get into the actual Star Wars movies, yesterday was the season finale for season 2 of The Mandalorian. And everyone has now watched it. I made sure to watch it before I went on Facebook because everyone and their fucking mom was posting about it, and I didn't want any spoilers. So, what did you guys think?
Good.
All right, moving on. No, I actually stayed up until midnight to watch it because I think when the Ahsoka episode came out, I didn't do that. And I literally woke up to like spoilers on my phone.
No.
So yeah, I made sure to watch it, and maybe because I only had 4 hours of sleep the night before, I was crying, like staying up for 20 hours and then watching it. I cried at the end of the episode.
Oh,
it was very good. It was very good Star Wars, guys.
Mm-hmm.
I know. As soon as I was like, man, I was like, I wonder who the Jedi
Hold
is.
on. Did you explain that we're going full spoilers here?
Okay, that good catch, Tanner. That's why.
Oh, I thought he was gonna put Luke Skywalker right in the thumbnail. That's what I thought we were doing with this one.
Troy.
Well,
you son of a bitch.
I was like, so if you don't want any further spoilers, I was like, you can jump to this time in the video. And unfortunately, if you saw the time, then it was already too late. Troy's shot is shot.
Yeah. So continue what you were saying, I guess.
Yeah. No. I mean, now that the spoiler warning's out of the way, Luke came on the ship with a pillow sack, grabbed Grogu, and just smashed him into the side of the wall.
After obliterating the fuck out of all the dark troopers.
Yeah, he took the dark saber, he took all the vibranium off of the Mandalorians, and then he left.
Yeah, exactly.
It only took 43 years, but we finally got to see Luke be a badass with the lightsaber.
Hell yeah.
It reminded me a lot of, and we'll get to Route One, but the scene with Darth Vader.
Exactly,
finally seeing Darth Vader.
They're the exact same thing, yeah.
Well, what else was great about it was a lot of his moves, his actual lightsaber moves and stuff, were straight out of Anakin moves from the prequels. So that was kind of cool. It's the whole father-son thing. It was really neat to see that.
Yeah, dude, it's just a shame that Mark Hamill aged so roughly that they had to hardcore deep fake his fucking face.
I really wish they would have just had it be Sebastian Stan or something. I wish they would. That's the one. Honestly, I thought the finale was perfect.
Well, what I know, it's they did so good with it in Rogue One with Tarkin and Leia, and then this Luke just looked like shit. He just looked like a out of focus video game on a 4K television screen. I thought he was fine. There's been better, there's been worse. I was okay with it. What I would have done differently is maybe not just focus still shots on his face for that long. It's 3 times they just still shot. He's the only person you can see, and he's talking, and it just made it much more obvious. Well, they did a lot of the obvious cover-ups that were just where it's his head is chopped off in the frame, all the time, and it's come on, all right. If you're gonna go that route, just do a really wide shot.
I was could you not find someone that looked close enough that you could just get away with it?
Troy already said it. The whole internet's been saying it for a year.
Yeah. Well, the problem is then you have and we'll get to Solo, but they recast Solo and Lando, and everyone fighting through a bitch fit about it. So maybe they were in a spot where they were afraid the fandom menace would strike again.
Well, I think it's tougher with Luke because we've seen Luke younger in the original trilogy, and now we've seen Luke older in the newer trilogy.
Yeah.
So to have somebody else play him right in the middle would feel extremely weird. So I kind of get that.
I can also that's a valid criticism.
What really weirded me out too was I just expected that Mark Hamill would do the voice, but that didn't even sound like Mark Hamill. It was just obviously an actor who was playing that role. So that was kind of weirded me out.
It didn't sound like he does now, but I was wondering because he's such a good voice actor. I'm could that have been him? Can he make himself sound that young?
I figured that he would be able to do that, but it didn't seem like they went that route.
The credits.
He was in the credit. His name was in the credits. So I was did they credit him for the likeness, or did he do the voice? That's what I'm wondering.
I mean, I don't think it would be his likeness, but
he tweeted right afterwards. Did you guys see that? Too?
Yeah.
So it came out. He's did anybody watch anything cool on TV today?
Yeah, and then everyone in the comments was yeah, Umbrella Academy is pretty good.
Yeah, regardless of the Luke Skywalker stuff, though, season 2 was amazing. There were so many episodes that I thought were fun. This is the best shit on TV, and now I have to sit here and wait for a year for Mando season 3 that might not even have Roku. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for whatever storyline they have with him being the chosen one for Mandalore with the darksaber now, but Baby Yoda made the show. All right, I don't know what they're gonna do. What the plot is gonna be now.
Damn what? I guarantee.
Spin-off, baby.
18 spin-offs.
Yeah. I guarantee, they're definitely going to move on. I think with a new story arc. But they're not gonna let Baby Yoda go, dude. That's like a fucking cash cow.
Well,
of
didn't they?
merchandising.
Didn't they like establish it and the post-credit scene? Like it's gonna be like Boba Fett focused.
That's gonna be a spinoff, right?
Yeah, that's a different show.
Yeah, the Book of Boba Fett or whatever.
I thought that wasn't confirmed. I thought it could be like the next season. Of
if
the
you
show.
were here last week, Tanner, you would know we went through the lists.
Oh, I listened to the last week's podcast because I knew y'all were talking shit in it at some point.
Well, yeah, dude, dude, we made you the thumbnail. I mean,
what more do you want, Tanner?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised you wanted to do a video for this since my fucking nose is so big.
Oh, here we go.
I'm surprised I didn't miss it.
I just thought that would be funny if in the video, like your nose got bigger each time. The cartoon.
And it's funny too because like a few years ago I did go as Quail Man for Halloween.
I know, that's why it was funny. Like it was multiple levels. It comes in threes, as Matt would say.
Well, you're still Roger. So.
Yeah, I'm still.
You're
Roger.
still Roger from Doug. So
exactly.
So.
I'm happy that we got good Boba Fett, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, that was something else I wanted to talk about, Luke. It was kind of strange because like he looked like the very beginning of Return of the Jedi, like straight up, like right before he went to go to Tatooine, like he's like, I'm gonna stop and do this first, like because he's got the outfit and everything. And then like Boba Fett looks like he's been like sitting around for like 20 years, gaining like 30 pounds and like getting like wretched. Like so, like what's the deal there?
Well, Boba's already older than Luke, so. I mean, he would have been.
Yeah, he like is like bursting out of that armor.
Yeah, no, I noticed that too.
They had to give some cosplay ideas for the middle-aged man.
Yeah, they gave us Fat Thor, and now it can be Fat Boba Fett. Like,
it's all great.
I mean, a lot of different tastes now.
Yeah, he's got that clone dad bod.
Right. He still kicked a lot of ass. It was awesome seeing him like just smash some troopers.
I loved seeing Bo-Katan interact with Boba Fett also.
Oh yeah.
I love the Bo-Katan focused episode, like in whatever episode 2 or whatever. But seeing like real Mandalorians interact with clone Mandalorian,
and their helmets look great,
and they whatever Holt Mandalorian, like seeing all three of them interact in that bar. I was just sitting there like, you could never, no one could have ever pitched this before Dave Filoni.
And just that quick little fight between Boba Fett and the other girl, I don't remember her name, the one that's with Bo-Katan, that was pretty cool too. Just see them like just a real quick spar. She's flipping him around and everything. That was pretty awesome.
People through tables.
Yeah, they beat the shit out of each other. And they're like, all right, let's go. All right.
Yep.
Dude, after watching the finale, they also have on Disney Plus like a 8-episode documentary series about like filming season 1 of The Mandalorian.
I still need to watch that.
Yeah, dude, I was watching that and some of that shit was crazy. Like the backgrounds and stuff, like where they filmed a lot of the stuff, it's just like LED. They're in like in a room just surrounded by like LED screens and ceiling and shit. And a lot of the background is like actually there while they're filming and stuff. Like
it's revolutionary. It really is. Nice. Like, and it makes it really cheap and you can like reproduce like any environment. I mean, you have to shoot shit really specifically like on that sound stage, but like, it's like people have picked it up. They're shooting the Batman portions of that. They're shooting it using that technology.
Cool. It's basically like, a holodeck.
Yeah, dude, it was cool. Like they showed the scene where they were like in the boat, like with the lava and stuff. And like the actors were like, yeah, dude, during that scene, like it was hard. Like I was grabbing like the thing because it felt like I was actually moving and I was like getting disoriented because the screens like around you are like moving, like the tunnel's getting bigger at this end and smaller at this end. Like, It was wild.
Huh. That's pretty cool. Oh, you know, another awesome thing in this finale episode that we didn't touch on yet was that little fight that Mando that Din Djarin had with what's his name?
Gustavo Fring.
Yeah, with Gideon and the Darksaber. That was fucking cool. That, you know what that reminded me of? Have you seen the fan-made like version of the Obi-Wan and Vader fight on the Death Star?
Dude, that's
where it's
so
like
good.
It's like this extended duration fight where they're going through different rooms and they're slashing through walls and stuff. It reminded me of that. They're like, you know, stick the Darksaber in the wall and like push it along and everything. That was awesome. That was a good fight.
And he took his helmet off at the end of the episode.
Yeah, and that's the part that made me cry, as he wanted Roku to remember his face. You know?
Yeah.
It's like a reverse Chewie and Han situation where like Han Solo is basically gonna die and Chewie will live on for 700 more years, and that's the same thing that's gonna happen. Like Roku won't even remember like the Mandalorian in the span of like what he was with him for a year in a 900-year lifespan. You know?
Well, we'll see.
Yeah,
A 14-year lifespan.
I'm sure something will happen.
Right.
He'll end up somewhere else before.
They're gonna make a spin-off series set 400 years from now in the future with like grown-up Grogu,
C-3PO. Oh my God, C-3PO.
No, it's gonna be teenage Grogu, and he's gonna be learning how to be a Jedi.
Oh, hey, by the way, does anybody not think that what they're doing with Grogu and his blood is directly related to the whole Emperor coming back thing?
That's exactly what I thought.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah.
I don't know what, because they specifically
they're trying to justify the rise of Skywalker.
Right.
Like, we can fix this, guys. Hold on. You
like
Mandalorian?
Reference like his high M count, high midichlorian
count?
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
I thought for a very long time that Roku literally was a baby Yoda and a clone of Yoda, and that's what all the experimentation was.
He still could be his son.
Jedis can't have
so
sex,
Yoda
okay?
They're not supposed to, but it's possible.
We'll just retcon as much as we can of the sequel trilogy, and then it'll be okay. Yeah, we're gonna watch Obi-Wan and Darth Vader meet up again in that series. So.
That's honestly that's the spinoff I'm the least excited for. Like,
I'm hyped for it, man. Give me that you and Obi baby. I'll take it.
Like, why the fuck is it happening? You know, like you
had money.
Obi-Wan's story is done, and it's like, for no reason they met up again.
You are for the droid.
Oh my God, I hate C-3PO with a fucking passion.
R2 got shelved in that sequel trilogy, man. Like, they need to get repentance here.
Dude, my phone won't last 2 years, but these goddamn 2 droids are 100 years old. Like, fuck off.
Got that bad badge?
Pass. I'll also pass on Andor, that Rogue One spinoff. Like Troy said, like, they're already dead, and we're gonna go back and do a prequel of the prequel.
Yeah,
of the characters that are already dead.
I'm not super in love with watching shows about characters that are already dead. Kind of like with Black Widow too. Like, I'll go see that movie, but I'm like, what am I gonna learn?
Yeah. What am I ready for? I didn't even care for her in the other movies. So I don't know. That's another thing to talk about. Let's not go on another Marvel tangent.
I will watch all the Star Wars regardless.
Yeah. So talking about prequels.
Yeah, so
where we're starting? Are we starting with prequels, or
what are we doing? Are we going in chronological order, or what are we doing?
Oh, fuck, dude, I don't know. I was just gonna go in order that like TeirMaker brought them up, which I mean, I numbered them in order. It's just the two that aren't episode numbers kind of ended up in front instead of, so they're not in the chronological place of the actual movies.
All right. So what order are we doing? Is it just the way that we see them right now?
Yeah. So let's just start. We're going to be starting with Rogue One then. So we're Rogue One. How do we feel about Rogue One?
Pretty lukewarm for me on Rogue One. I feel like it's the same feelings that I expressed when we did the Marvel podcast when I was talking about the original Avengers movie. Like, I felt like it was trash for the first like 2/3, and then it had like a really action-packed, like fan servicey, like decent third act. And so like when I saw that in theaters, like I just kind of forgot about the first like 2/3 that I really hated. And then I was like, damn, that fucking Vader scene at the end there, that shit was lit. And then I'd go back and rewatch it, and I was like, man, that really isn't a good movie. I don't like it. I'd give it a, like, at best, decent. I skimmed through it this morning because I knew that I'm sure that a bunch of y'all are just about to be like, I fucking love Rogue One. Like, it's so good. So I was like, I'm gonna prep myself. I was trying to prep myself because I knew that somebody was going to say that, and I'd be like, well, I mean, I just wanted to make sure that my feelings are still the same. So I went through it this morning. I'm like, yeah, it's not it. It's okay.
That's right.
So I think it's great. And I have rewatched it, I think twice since I've seen it in theaters. I actually went in theaters and saw it twice, and then I've seen it twice since then. I'm not gonna say it's God tier because the start is really rough, but I don't know. I think it's really good, and it was really good to see a movie in Star Wars. And I love that they killed off everyone. I love that there were tons. Like the third act is phenomenal. Like Tanner is correct. I'll agree with him. Third act is amazing and better than the rest. But I still think the solid beginning and middle makes it a great movie. I don't think it's God tier, but I actually do really think it's really good.
I'd agree with Troy. I really like the whole setup and all of the characters that they established. There's some weird parts to it, but so like I could say that probably not bump it and keep it in God tier, and say it's great. But I really like all the characters that are in it. I do like they kill them off. They didn't keep any of them. Nothing revolves around the Skywalkers. It's a completely new, fresh thing that we haven't seen in the movies. So that was what I liked about it personally.
All right, so I agree with both of you guys. I agree with everything except what Tanner just said, but I see where Tanner's coming from, because I think the very first time I watched that movie, I remembered walking out of it thinking, yeah, that final third of it, that final act was amazing, but I had some kind of issues with not the very beginning. Like the very beginning, the whole setup I thought was great. I really love I can't remember his name right now, the Krennic, the one that was behind the whole Death Star, like, laser being perfected and everything, and firing it and doing all the testing and stuff. I really liked his character a lot, so I liked that opening scene with him and Mads Mikkelsen's character and all that. I felt like after that, the movie kind of just went all over the place. Like, boom, we're on a different planet. Boom, we're on this planet. Boom, we're on this planet. It was kind of like all over. And I also didn't really appreciate. God, I'm doing terrible with names right now. What's the dude that Forrest Whitaker played?
Grogu.
No.
Saw Gerrera.
Yeah, Saw Gerrera was awesome.
I didn't appreciate his character the first time because I didn't realize who he was. I think I had maybe seen that one episode of Clone Wars, the first one that he appears in when he's young, and he just didn't really resonate with me. I didn't remember his character. And then afterwards, I realized who he was. And then I saw him appear in Rebels. He's in 1 or 2 episodes of Rebels as well. And now he's in the video games and stuff. And I'm like, okay, I get this character now. So I totally understand where he's coming from. But in the movie, the first time, I was like, this dude's fucking weird. I don't like him. This segment is taking too long. And so, yeah, I had some issues with it. So I would say it's a solid great. Those reasons I just explained are the only reasons I might not put it in God tier. So I would be fine with great.
One thing I want to say about the opening scene, it is an exact copy of the opening scene of Inglourious Bastards, but not nearly as good. It's the exact same scene.
I mean, I do love Inglourious Bastards, but
tell me I'm wrong. Go back and watch the opening scenes of both those movies and tell me Rogue One is not just complete straight up redoing that opening scene.
I only saw that one once. I don't remember.
Well, the difference is instead of Nazis, it has stormtroopers. So, the same thing at all.
God, what else was I gonna say about Rogue One? I really did like the face replacement stuff. I agree. I like that they all died. That was a good talk. I love that it goes literally directly into the original movie. It ends and it's just so you kind of have that to view it from. So you're you can see that fucking Annie Skywalker was just blazing through motherfuckers 30 seconds before he jumped on this ship and was like, bitch, let's come on my ship. That is really cool. Yeah. That was cool. The movie I think is a mess, and a part of it is because this movie and the other spin-off movie had huge controversy of massive reshoots.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. Yeah,
interfering here. So it was made by Gareth Edwards, but Disney hated the and Kathleen Kennedy specifically, who's in my opinion, the main source of faltering issues with Disney Star Wars. We could talk about that more later, but anyway,
we'll get there.
Yeah, but anyways, so she brings in Tony Gilroy to essentially reshoot, rewrite, and like redo a huge bunch of the movie, and that's why it's all like all over the place, and like footage that you see from the trailers is not in the movie, and like you can see things have been reworked in obvious places. Like,
well, I never watched trailers,
like,
so I wouldn't know, and I don't pay attention to any like the news stuff. Like all that matters to me is what's on the screen. I don't care if there's like drama going on before that. All I care about is what's actually in the movies.
No, I agree. I'm just trying to explain why it's
Right.
not as
A little
like solidified.
Yeah.
Too many cooks in the
Why-
kitchen.
Yeah.
Too many
Like actually, I remember hearing. I think the original they didn't all die, and the reshoots is when they killed them off.
Oh, really?
That's a big
Yeah.
change.
I will say this, like another reason why I really like Rogue One is it's a gritty Star Wars movie. Like,
Mhm.
like you don't get that. You get that a little bit in some of the movies, but for the most part, not really. It's like the most gritty Star Wars movie. It's like
it's like the most real, you know. Like
it feels like a war movie. And
it does, and I like that we got to see so
filmed
many
that way.
different types of characters that we don't normally see in the primary Star Wars movies. Like it's not all just like a Jedi show. Like yes, we got to see Darth Vader with his lightsaber at the very end because they had to give us the little, you know, token lightsaber scene, but you know, we got to see like the heavy gunner guy. We got to see like people just, you know, doing melee combat. We got to see Cassie and Andor with the blasters and everything. Like we got to see like a variety of different classes, I guess. It kind of reminded me of like the Star Wars video games where, you know, you can just play whatever class you want. There's more things in this universe than just Jedi, and that was really cool to see.
I just think I just couldn't buy it because I didn't care about any of the characters because A, I knew they were going to die, and B, they had like no development.
Well, and
they were pretty wooden.
Brandon's point. Also, one thing that I really loved was what's his name? Like Danny Yin.
Donnie Yen.
Yeah, Donnie Yen. That he was like a month for the Jedis, but not lightsaber wielding.
Yeah, that was nice.
Like,
Like there's force sensitive people.
Well,
they're not all Jedi.
In A New Hope, right? Like they sort of mention like Jedis are a fucking weird, crazy religion, you know, like people don't even believe in the Force, and this sort of like made it seem like there's a whole city where shit's getting fucked up. Hybrid crystals are there, but none of them are Jedis, and even the people who believe in the Force, they're just dudes with sticks. Like they're not like it. Kind of reinforced the universe for me.
Yep.
Justin, you haven't said anything about this movie.
I know, it's because I was letting everyone go off. I mean,
to crap all over us.
No, I mean, for me, I probably would have put it like I was teetering between pretty good and great. But it had a lot of pretty much what's already been said. It has a lot of, I think it had some like funny moments, especially with like the droid and stuff.
The droid is awesome.
Yeah, he had some funny like moments and lines and stuff, and it was like a darker movie. It had my boy Hannibal Lecter in it, so I love him. But I mean, all in all, you know, I thought, you know, I didn't think it was like I said, like amazing, like God tier and stuff. But I mean, I prefer it to what comes after it, like in terms of like release wise and stuff. So I would definitely put it in. I'm willing to put it in great. It sounds like that sounds like a good spot. So boom.
Sounds like that's kind of the consensus.
Yeah, it sounds like the universal consensus is that
Tanner's wrong.
That's not the definition of universal.
Okay, well,
we have a quorum.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's fine. Whatever. Great.
Whatever. Tanner's like,
I mean,
Tanner's like, I didn't agree to this.
Statistically speaking, I think it would land either at great or pretty good if we average that out. So I think it's got to be great.
All right. So then, next movie going down the list, we have Solo.
Did Troy die?
Troy's coming back.
No, I'm here.
He didn't want us to see him reshuffling in his chair.
Yeah.
No,
he's just going out to the masses.
He heard the word Solo and he's like, I'm back, baby.
Oh yeah. Well, I actually really like Solo. I think I don't think I'm gonna get a consensus on this, but I think it's God tier. I really it's probably one of, if not my favorite Star Wars movie.
It is a very fun movie. I originally didn't see it because of the movie that was before it. So I was one of the terrible people who didn't give money to Disney, so they don't ever want to make any more of those movies. But after watching it, after, I don't know, putting it off for a long time, I really do like Solo as well.
Yeah,
Tanner?
I think it's fine. Like, it's like, to be fair, like, the first time I watched it in theaters, I thought it was pretty meh. I thought it was bland. And then I watched it again. I'm like, it was fun. It was fine. I tried to watch it before this movie, but I really focused on trying to get through Rogue One because I knew y'all would be riding or dying for that motherfucker. So, like, I only got through about like half of Solo this morning, and it's good. I like Alden Ehrenreich's performance. I thought he was a good Han Solo. I liked a lot of things that they did. There's another one that had like a director replacement and a huge reshuffling. This one much more extreme than Rogue One. I know it doesn't matter the way that it was made, but originally it was made by Phil Lord and Chris Miller. They shot 80% of the movie. They had like 2 or 3 weeks left of production, and Kathleen Kennedy hired Ron Howard, and they spent an additional 4 months completely refilming the entire movie, and then solidifying that it will bomb because they spent like $300 million making it.
And here's the thing too. It was Alden was the reason that Phil Lord and Miller got fired, because they had like everyone, like Amelia Hart and Donald Glover, would sit there and ad lib like a lot of the lines, and they were making something actually pretty funny. And Alden was the one that was like, I signed a contract to do this movie. I read this script. You're not making the movie that I signed. It was like
Kathleen Kennedy and Lawrence Kasdan were pissed off because A, they were making a very comedic movie, and B, they were shooting it in that style. They were doing a lot of ad lib, and it's very expensive to make movies that way. But I would argue, is it more expensive to just finish the fucking movie that you almost have, or to entirely reshoot it with an entirely new director for an additional 4 months?
And the problem too is that they didn't push back that 4 month. They apparently couldn't afford to, like, I don't know, push back. So that's why it was like 300 million, because they were trying to film an entire movie in 4 months.
It's just ridiculous. It's like, why would you hire those two guys and then not want them to do what they are famously known to do? Like, it just doesn't make sense. But that's whatever. Back to the actual quality of the film. It's good. You know, it's fun. I would call it a pretty good Star Wars venture. I think that they should just expand on it. If they're making all these fucking shows, why not just continue Solo?
Yeah, I want to see a Darth Maul show, because
they gave us that ending, and it's like, now I want to see that. Like I thought this was like, it was fine, it was decent, like, but like, I don't really care about it. Like, I won't go back to it a whole bunch of times. But like, if you give me a TV show that like continues this, because I think you got something here if you expand on it like more.
Well, they are making the Lando show with Donald Glover. So
I thought they said they're just making a Lando show, but they didn't say who's involved in it, because like, that could be anything. It could be an animated show. It could be anything.
Oh yeah, I think it's going to be like Billy D. Williams telling a story about Donald Glover as Lando.
That would be awesome if it cuts back and forth. You see old Lando telling the story, and then you see Donald Glover Lando acting it out.
But Donald Glover's too busy to do it, and he'll voice the character, but it's actually animated.
Oh my god,
that's lame.
But it's like, I really don't. I have a very hard time seeing them land Donald Glover for a fucking show. Like,
it's like How I Met Your Mother, and it's like him telling like
exactly. It's like old Lando is like narrator, and then you see the show, and it's like Solo timeline Lando. But Donald Glover's like, I can't commit to a show. Like, I'll give you my voice. Like, I did.
He's busy doing Atlanta.
What's he doing now?
Atlanta. He's filming 2 seasons of Atlanta. He's also like an extremely famous music artist.
Oh, that's right. He does.
And he also
he's in like every other movie.
Yeah, he's in tons and tons of projects.
Yeah. I guess I'll go. So I think so. The first time I saw Solo, I absolutely loved it. I remember walking out of the theater, and like, I need to stop doing this, because I
fall into this trap all the time when I see like a new Star Wars movie in particular, where like I'll get on social media and be like, oh my God, guys, it's like, this is like the best one now. This is the best one. Like, and I always get after other people for doing stuff like that. But when it comes to Star Wars, like, I don't know, I get like super just like up on like the emotions of whatever just came out. And I'm like super excited about it. So I remember when Solo first came out, like after every Star Wars movie, I kind of like redo my personal ranking of where I feel each of the movies is. And I put it like all the way up at the top for like a little bit, for like a couple of weeks. Right after it came out, I was like, dude, this is like the most solid of the Star Wars movies. And I've kind of calmed down a little bit on that since then. I still think it's a hell of a lot of fun to watch. I think the characters are great. They have a ton of chemistry. I think it's just like a blast to watch. I do feel like it kind of like, I feel like something's missing, and I'm not sure if I can put my finger on it. Like, I feel like the whole kind of story that it's telling feels kind of like it's in a little bottle in a bubble, sort of like distant from some of the other stuff that's going on in Star Wars. And it kind of is, like, you know, it's a story that took place way before, and it doesn't really have a lot of bearing on a lot of things that are going on in like the main 9 films or whatever. But for what it is, I think it's very well done, and I think it's still a ton of fun. So I would put it at the very least, I would want to put it in pretty good, possibly even great, just because I think it is still a super solid movie. I think like cinematography wise, it has a little bit of issues with some scenes. Like I heard other people complaining about this after I first saw it.
Very brown and gray.
It's a little drab
hazy.
and just dark. Like there's some scenes that are so dark, it is kind of hard to see exactly what's going on. So like rewatching it after hearing people say that, I'm like, oh yeah, I can see that.
The first like 30 minutes of the movie, I feel are like very hard to see.
The beginning's really dark, and when they go into the mines, the Kessel mines, it's really dark in there too. But
yeah, and
mostly
the
other than that,
it's club is all brown, and you can't see anything either.
Yeah.
One thing I will say though, I disagree with one thing you said, that it's in its own bubble, because it really sets up almost perfectly. I remember one time I was watching these in order, and I watched Solo and then A New Hope, and it's like the way I watched the original trilogy before this movie had Han Solo in a specific light, and I thought, oh well, it seems unrealistic that Princess Leia would hum and this dude's a complete piece of shit, and Princess Leia's pussy just makes him a hero. You know, I thought that was super unrealistic, especially if she's a bitch in the movie. But having the Amelia Hart storyline, and specifically having Amelia Hart kind of fuck him over at the end, makes it like way more realistic Han Solo through the original trilogy. So I personally like that a lot. And it sets up the relationship when in Empire Strikes Back, you see Lando Calrissian and Han Solo, and it just, it does a lot for
it does a lot trilogy. For the characters. I agree. I just felt like the actual story that it was telling, you know, what they're trying to accomplish in that movie, the whole like spice run and everything, you know, I just didn't feel like, I don't know, like I liked it. I don't want to say anything negative about it. I just felt like, you know, it just felt the most distant from the prime, you know, Star Wars saga of all the films to me.
Would you say the most unnecessary? Is that what?
That's what I'm trying not to say. That's what I'm trying not to say, because I legitimately love the film.
Yeah, I don't think just because it's a stand. I mean, and I don't think Brandon's trying to say this either. Just because it's a standalone film that doesn't really like have anything to do with the numbered episodes, I don't think that
it might have if we'd seen what happened next with Darth Maul and whatnot. But another question I'd pose to you guys is, if you ripped out the last 5 minutes of both of these movies, would you like them as much as you do?
I would.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, with Rogue One, that last 5 minutes goes a very long way. That would hurt it if you took that out. But I could do without the little bit of Darth Maul. I don't need that.
Also, do you? I don't know. I'm assuming Tanner knows this, as he's Mr. Hollywood over here. That they weren't even gonna do Darth Maul. It was a complete toss-up. They didn't know who they were gonna do, and Ron Howard's daughter was like, "I would really like it if it's Darth Maul," and Ron Howard didn't even know who he was, and was like, "All right, whatever, fuck." I gotta put someone in there with a lightsaber. They told me I have to. My fucking little Earl lights, Darth Maul. I guess we're putting him in. So that wasn't even like planned or anything.
Oh my god!
And then she went on to direct The Mandalorian.
I know. And fucking one of the best episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, really? I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
The Mandalorian has like 7 like directors on it, and they each
Yeah,
do like different episodes.
Like, you know, Jon Favreau's running this bitch. You know, he's got a lot of famous directors making these movies. So the last 2 of this season were Peyton Reed. He makes the Ant-Man movies. Taika Waititi did the season finale last year.
Okay.
And they have some.
And he's the voice of that one droid too.
Yeah. Bryce Dallas Howard did some episodes.
Oh,
wow. Carl Weathers directed an episode this season.
Yeah.
Nice. That's cool. I'm surprised I didn't notice that. I usually see those things in credits, but I don't know. With this show, I think I'm always trying to see what's going on the screen more than the credits themselves.
The credits are on the screen.
I know that.
There we go.
It's like the second Brandon here's like, and it ends like he's just like remote click. Like
no. Well, like at the end.
Basking in it.
No, at the end.
Concept art at the end.
I know, but I'm looking at the art. I'm not looking at the text.
Oh yeah. I forgot.
Yeah.
Brand's like, I don't care who fucking made it as long as it exists.
Yeah. All right, so where are we putting Solo?
Somewhere between great and pretty good.
Yeah. So. Well,
Justin, what did you think about?
I mean, I thought it was pretty good. Like, I don't think I necessarily enjoyed it more than I enjoyed Rogue One. I mean, it was good, but I do wish we would get to actually like the problem. It leading to a Darth Maul movie is what like I think made it so like awesome for me, and then the fact that we're not kind of getting that now because it tanks so fucking hard at the box office
because of Matt.
Yeah, because Matt sat on it like he did with fucking X-Men First Class for fucking 3 years.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about Jess's iPad.
Oh, I mean, he did sit on that too, so.
Like you with the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, like me with the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
What comes around goes around.
Yeah, because Spider-Verse is god tier.
It is.
Yeah, it's pretty damn good.
No debate.
Don't throw that on the list.
Yeah, best Star Wars movies.
Yeah. Oh, hey,
Spider-Verse.
That's a nice footnote, though. They got fired from Solo and went on to make Academy Award-winning Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh, all right.
Miller.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Good. Well, then it's best for everyone.
Yep,
you know?
Exactly.
So, where do we think? Either it has to be either great or pretty good.
My vote is pretty good.
Pretty good.
My vote is great.
All right, yeah.
I want to say great. I'm a little torn, but I want to say great.
All right.
My gut.
I say pretty good. So Matt's the tiebreaker.
Maybe the lower end of great.
So still great.
All right.
It was either high pretty good or low great.
Yeah.
All right. Now we're moving on to what I know is Brandon's god tier movie, which is going to be Episode 1, Phantom Menace.
Does that mean I get to go first?
That does mean this is your movie. You saw it 13 times. You made
I will
like 5% of the box office.
I did. I saw it 11 times in the theater. Okay, so I'm.
Troy's
let me preface this.
I've never seen any movie more than like 2 times in the box office.
All right, let him preface it.
Okay. All right, well, so I don't know if Troy's listened to the episode where I explained my whole story. I won't get into the whole thing here, but the short version is I waited in line for 11 hours on opening day when that movie first came out, and I did not get in. I got up to the box office and they sold out on the person right before me. So being the pissed off teenage
Brandon's breaking up.
Brandon, you're broken.
Yeah,
that's why we hoard on Audacity, Justin.
Okay, this doesn't.
Full person I was like, I'm going to see this movie 11 times to make up for the 11 hours that I waited. I don't know how it made sense to me.
We missed the entire story after you got the door shown in your face.
Okay. Can you hear me now, though?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the TLDR was Brandon was a pissed teenager who didn't get into it opening night, so he vowed his vengeance against AMC by going to go see it multiple times and still giving me money.
Yeah, I waited in line 11 hours. I didn't get in, so I decided to watch it 11 times in the theater to make up for it. So anyway,
that makes sense. That
sounds
the
like
logic there is
Comic-Con.
very sound. Yeah.
yeah, so that might be part of the reason why it holds a special place in my heart, just because I've seen it so much, and it just like, I don't know, like I just have a lot of great memories of going to see that movie with like friends and family and stuff. But I want to preface like any like ranking that I put for that movie on the fact that I have two lists. I have two rankings for Star Wars movies. I rank them separately for like a very good reason, because I know that my personal enjoyment of some of the Star Wars movies does not necessarily match with how good they are as movies, and I totally recognize that. So I have a ranking where I rank the movies by actual quality, that I think they, you know, how good they are as Star Wars films and as films in general. And then I have a ranking on personal enjoyment. And my personal enjoyment ranking, Phantom Menace is actually at the top. It's my favorite movie to watch. It's my favorite Star Wars movie to watch. So, but that said, as quality of a movie, I put it down, and it's not as low as you guys might put it, but it's like practically right in the middle. I put it at number 5 as far as all movies, like how good it is as a movie, because I think it's a really solid movie. It's a really solid movie. It does a lot for Star Wars as a universe. It sets up, like, I mean, obviously it sets up everything because it's supposed to be the first one in this saga as we have it. But it like establishes, you know, what the Jedi Order is like. You know, we get to see the Jedi Council and how they operate. You see the Republic and the Senate and all this stuff that becomes like a staple throughout the whole, you know, like saga. You know, it's like the backdrop for everything. And it does so much world building of showing you all these different places and these alien races and the, you know, politics going on between them. I just think that's really phenomenal. And then the Darth Maul fight at the end is still, I'm pretty sure it's still my favorite lightsaber fight in all of the Star Wars movies. And it's not just the fight itself that's great, because the fight is pretty good, but it's the way the way they shot it. It's the way that they cut back and forth. It's not just like if you just edited that fight and just put it all together all at once, it would still be really fun to watch. But the way that they give you little pieces and then cut away to something else, and you're watching what's going on over here with the Gungans, and you're watching what's going on with Anakin, and you're like, come on, get back to the lightsaber fight. And then they come back to it and they keep doing that to you. It's like every time you're getting a hit. I just love it. And like that little bit where Obi-Wan is just waiting for Darth Maul, and he just like busts out of the thing when the energy shield drops, and it's like the fastest, most frenetic like lightsaber like action like ever. It's just like bam, 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 bam. And they're just kicking each other's ass. I don't know. I just get so excited about it. Like every time I watch that part where the door opens and Darth Maul is revealed, like I just get like super amped every time. Like to this day still, I just love it so much.
Brandon's nipples lactate a little bit every time.
Oh my god.
So I could say more, but like I'm not going to because everybody needs to talk. But I love that movie a lot. So okay, so as far as rankings go, I want to put it in great. I'm not going to say God tier, but I want to put it in great. So that's my vote.
I still can't believe you have 2 lists. Like, that's the next level. Like, be happy you're married, because
honestly, like I'm kind of the same way in that I think of them in 2 different ways too. You'd have to go back to the Marvel episode to listen to. Let me preface a couple things here as well. For one, I also saw episode 1 several times in theaters, 3 times, not 11, but I saw it 3 times in theaters. I was also 9 years old in 1999 when that came out.
Brandon was like in college.
So I loved it back then. It was my jam for the same reasons, but I want to preface this as well. So I view them in 2 different ways as well, because I like to enjoy movies that I think are really bad in an ironic way. Like Spider-Man 3 on the Marvel podcast, I was discussing how I think it's an atrociously terrible movie, but I adore it for how terrible it is. And that's kind of like how I feel with the prequel trilogies. But if I set that aside and just think of them on a filmmaking standpoint, I can judge them differently. And in that capacity, I would say that episode 1 is probably the best of the prequel trilogy, because the main beef that I have with the prequel trilogy is George Lucas's decisions on a technical level of how to film them. So episode 1 is shot on film and looks really good. And they use some practical effects here and there, lots of CG, of course, but like they use like miniatures for the pod race and stuff. It looks really good. And then episodes 2 and 3 are shot digitally, and they're shot entirely on green screens for both episodes, and it shows. Yeah. And so I think in that capacity, episode 1 is just like way above the other 2 in the prequel trilogy as far as like quality goes. And Qui-Gon Jinn is just a god tier character.
Yes.
For Star Wars legacy, it's an unfortunate that that's basically the only experience we get with him outside of the old novels from back then. But yeah, I think Liam Neeson was great. But the things that bog it down are, of course, Jar Jar and little young Anakin Skywalker, and just atrociously terrible dialogue. Also, really racist.
The separatists.
The separatists are like
the Trade Federation guys.
The Trade Federation guys are just straight up like horrible racist, like Mongolian.
And I'm sure it wasn't on purpose, but what's extra bad is after episode 1 came out and like there was a bit of like a backlash and outcry about being like culturally insensitive, then episode 2 they changed their voices and they sounded Native American. I'm like, what are you doing?
So I don't know how to rate it, honestly. I don't know. Like, I still think it's bad in a lot of ways, but I do agree with a lot of the things that Brandon said. I think there's some merit to the quality in some ways, but like, I feel like if I just strip away what it adds to the realm of Star Wars and I strip away the memeability of the movie and how funny I think it is in a lot of spots, like, I don't know, I'd probably give it like watchable to decent. Oh, one thing also, I think it's the best of all Star Wars movies. I think it's got the greatest score, like the best John Williams soundtrack out of all of them. Like Duel of Fates, I think is the best Star Wars song of all time. Like, I think that's the fucking jam right there. And so I have the same feelings with the finale of that film. So I think I would give it, I don't want to bag on it. I don't want to bag on it too much just because of those two main things that are really bad. So I think personally I'd give it I'd give it a decent. I feel good with that. I've given it more credit over the last few years than I used to give it. I'll say that.
Oh, I want to bring up one more thing really quick. Did you guys see the video that I shared in the Facebook room the other day? It was Dave Filoni explaining the genius of the Star Wars prequels is in his opinion. He made a very good point about episode 1, which is that it's such an important like piece in like the backstory of the Skywalker saga of the, you know, whole set of 9 movies that we have now, because that like fight between Darth Maul and Qui-Gon Jinn specifically was basically a fight to decide the fate of Anakin Skywalker, because Qui-Gon Jinn wanted to take Anakin Skywalker and train him as he saw Jedi should be, and he didn't even have the exact same ideas that the rest of the Jedi Council did. That's why he wasn't on the Council, even though he was a Jedi Master, because he kind of believed in a little bit of a different ideology than they did. And he wanted to raise Anakin like that, and him being killed there, making it so he could not train Anakin and Obi-Wan had to. Obi-Wan was a great Jedi and he was a great friend to Anakin, but he was more like a brother to him. He wasn't that father figure that Anakin needed, and he didn't quite understand what Qui-Gon might have, you know, understood about the Force and about the Jedi. And so like the fact that Qui-Gon was cut short at that point and unable to take on Anakin under his wing, it just completely like decided the fate of Anakin Skywalker to go drastically in one direction versus what he could have done. And I just thought it was a great observation about that movie.
Yeah, and that's from the show that Justin was talking about, that documentary series from the first season.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, he does that in I think the last episode or something like that.
Nice.
It's a really great speech.
Nice.
Okay, so Maddie, Brandon, or Troy, what do you guys think?
Who wants to go first? Troy?
All right, I will say this first. Duel of Fates, everything you said, absolutely awesome. I love the fight scene. I love everything you said about Duel of Fates. Other than Duel of Fates, I think this is a complete piece of shit movie on almost every level. I don't give a fuck that it was filmed on film. Fucking There's desert everywhere, and you're sitting there in the. Not just was the Asian aliens racist. Jar Jar Binks was racist. The fucking Jew with the giant nose who owned Anakin as a slave was racist. The movie's super fucked up. All right.
The telling is there's too much sand.
Pod racing is funny. There's so much sand.
It gets
just
everywhere.
Frustrates me so much.
It just gets everywhere.
The pod racing was stupid.
Oh, the pod racing's awesome.
I thought it was
It's so much fun.
It was such a waste of time. It was on for way too long. It was like, oh, let me as a Jedi fucking cheat slave tradery. Like fucking, I'm gonna buy slaves like that. The one thing I will say about the prequels is it shows how fucking hypocritical and terrible the Jedi are.
That's true.
We'll get to that later on.
That's true.
But Hai Huan Jin, you saying that about him, it's like he was a fucking terrible Jedi. I think Obi-Wan taking over Anakin probably was for the better, you know.
Well, Qui-Gon was trying to get away from those strict Jedi ways, and because he could recognize that they're not the way that they view things is not correct either. He's trying to bring a new light to the Jedi.
Sure. And here's the thing too, like every Star Wars, it's almost like a trademark for Star Wars to be like, you don't know what's going on. You have to actually read the 3 paragraphs rolling short essay that they made so that you understand the context of how the film starts. But I was so lost going into this, and yeah, I was younger, sure, but I didn't know. I've watched that movie like 3 times and didn't know what the hell the point of the movie was, or what the Separatists were, or the Republic, or anything. Like, they do a really terrible job setting it up. Whereas like A New Hope makes sense, as it's like, oh, we all know who Nazis are. These are space Nazis. No more explanation is really needed. With episode 1,
super political.
I had no idea.
A lot of politics in the prequels.
Yeah, which I love that more than a lot of other aspects. But the thing is, with episode 2 and 3, they really do that. Whereas episode 1, the one good thing about it is that basically the main character of the movie is Palpatine starting a war on his own planet so that he could trick people into voting to give him power on the Senate that he shouldn't have had. Right? That's the main plot of the story. It has nothing to do with Anakin Skywalker or the Separatists. It's basically creating fake war to trick the government into giving himself more power. So I do like
if you
that.
Look at all the movies as a whole, it's all the story of Palpatine.
Yeah, I do like do like that, and I do like Duel of Fates, and yeah, all right, Liam Neeson, he's amazing in every movie. But like, dude, I really do not think this is a good movie. The writing also is so, like, the lines are so bad. Also, it creates a really weird, really weird, creepy Anakin Skywalker as a child with Padme, and then later they have sex in 10 years. Like, oh, it'd be like as if I was changing a fucking girl's diaper, and then as soon as she hit puberty, like, I'm gonna fucking get into that shit. Like, it's fucking creepy. It
also introduced midichlorians.
Yeah, exactly, which I think is the worst thing to happen to Star Wars. Is the point was anyone could be a Jedi. You sit there with your fucking
there's always a scientific explanation to anything,
cardboard roller as a kid from the wrapping paper, and you're like, oh, I could be a Jedi. Like, how every single one of us has at one point thought for a real serious second, like, I'm gonna see if I can move that with my mind. And midichlorians was like, fuck you, Aryan race are the only people who are the genetic superior people are the only ones who are allowed to have wizard powers. So
that's a good point. That is a good
I very much do not like this movie, but I will give it watchable.
I don't know. Can you follow that up, Matt?
I'm not going to rant and rave about it because everyone's talked about it. I pretty much agree with Tanner on most of it. I mean, I don't give a shit about the foo-foo Hollywood-esque religion.
All right, stop bagging on me for this. Legitimately, like, tell me if I'm wrong. Look at episode 1 and look at the next 2 fucking movies and tell me which of those 2 things looks better to you in your eyes. Well, one of them looks really good. One of them looks like it was shot on Sci-Fi Channel in the fucking back room.
There is a marked difference. Yeah.
I do appreciate the practical effects whenever they do it, which is, you know, why I love the fucking Mandalorian, because it's just all kinds of practical effects all over the place, and it looks good. But in general, I think whenever I first watched it, I enjoyed it, but I think I'm in the same boat with Troy, where I was like, I don't fucking understand what's going on. I'm like 9. But the Darth Maul fights were good, and I really hated Jar Jar back in the day because it was the cool thing to do. But I think in general, I think I'd put it at decent. Like, everyone else has covered everything about it. I was going to put it a little bit lower, but I do agree with Brandon. It did set up a lot of stuff in the Star Wars universe. And, I mean, for better or worse in some cases. But I'd say I'd put it at decent. It's definitely not the worst of the prequels.
Yeah, I was gonna say I do agree with Tanner. Like, out of the 3 prequels, it's the most watchable in terms because of the practical effects and stuff. Like, as a kid, you don't really notice like the green screen stuff. Like, but then like now, I'm just like, dude, this looks fucking awful. But did you also know that in the poster, as Anakin as a child, it shows Darth Vader as the shadow? Like, they spoiled it. They spoiled it right in the beginning with the poster.
How dare they?
Like, how the fuck? If you look at the poster for the movie, it has Anakin in the desert, and then
the only people that don't know that going in were like little kids, and they're not gonna figure it out.
Did you know who that Chancellor guy was that was talking to him at the
end? Do you know Obi-Wan? He's that old guy.
Hey, there's another positive. We got Ewan McGregor Obi-Wan.
Oh man, you know what's funny?
I will give you that. Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan, best thing that happened in the prequels, in my opinion.
Yes, absolutely. He's like a shining star in all of those movies. He's so good.
But yeah,
hello there.
But yeah, it was funny because like this past week, Megan watched like pretty much all of the Star Wars movies and stuff, and even though I was working, I'd come in at parts. And to Troy's point, there was the time where Anakin's standing there and he's staring at Padme, and I was like, dude, he's like fucking 6. Like, I'm like, what are you doing?
I believe in canon, it's like a 9-year difference between the 2 characters.
Yeah, it's not like totally unbelievable or anything like that.
That's still weird.
And it's not like one of them was making moves on the other one in the first movie.
Creepy.
So if you're 25 and there's a 9-year difference, Brandon, downwards, not upwards, you're the 25-year-old. How old's the person that you're gonna eye fuck?
Right. Not just as an older, which is creepy on its own. You're a royal princess that's an ambassador to an entire planet, and you're fucking a slave boy.
Pretty much.
That's 9 years.
It's a different time, you guys.
Yeah, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. They had different rules and laws.
Right. So I think it sounds like we're going with decent for episode 1.
Is it? Sure. See, I was gonna put it at pretty good.
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
All right.
Well, I don't know. Like, mathematically, how does it work? So Troy puts unwatchable.
I put watchable. I put watchable.
Watchable.
Yeah.
I put decent. Brandon says God tier if he's following his heart.
No,
if he's following his heart, he's going God
his heart,
tier.
yeah.
No, I know it's not God tier.
Brandon's gonna pull out all 3 of his lists that he carries in his pocket.
Let's get the average.
The 2 that he lets other people know, and then the 1 that's always.
I've got a third list for how much I sweat when I watch each one.
Yeah.
How sexy each movie is.
So Matt, what was your overall grade?
Decent.
All right, so it sounds like it's decent.
Okay, I think most of us can agree on the next one.
So I'll actually start off this one. This is my one that goes in unwatchable.
Agreed.
I fucking hate this movie.
Yeah.
I've literally watched it once, and I think besides
I've watched it like 15 times, and it's equally as terrible every time.
I have literally, out of like all of these movies, like out of all the prequel trilogy, it was the only one I didn't see in theaters. Wow. And I saw it like on DVD, and I watched it, and I never wanted to watch it again. Like,
I don't think I've watched. I can't remember the last time I watched it, but I cannot for the life of me tell you what happens in this fucking
nothing.
I can tell you everything that happens in this movie.
Yeah, they force Rome. Anakin fucks her. Like, that's what happens. And you get so many scenes of that, and then I guess there's Clone Wars or something at the end.
You get Jango Fett, the setup of the clone army, and Count Dooku. Obi-Wan's got a mullet.
You get to see
Jesus Obi-Wan. He's got the beard and everything.
You get to see Yoda actually do something for the first time in a movie,
which was amazing to see it for the first time. But ever since then, I feel like it just looks kind of cool.
They have an army of CG Jedi, and Mace Windu chops off Jango Fett's head in front of Boba Fett.
Honestly,
those are the highlights.
I'm gonna say
purple lightsaber.
I'm just gonna go ahead and go first as we're getting into it. I actually think that Clone Wars is pretty good.
What?
Are you talking about
good, actually?
You're talking about the show, right? The cartoon?
Here's the thing.
Clone Wars, the
so
show.
I will say this. Episode 2 and 3, I would have put them in unwatchable for a number of reasons, and maybe they're still true. But after watching like 7 seasons of Clone Wars, it's made me really appreciate the characters, and I can't get myself out of that loop. You know, I can't. But anyways, what I will say is, Anakin Skywalker.
The show is so good that it's made an unwatchable film better.
Yes, I'm exactly saying that. Dave Filoni is God. All right,
I will say Clone Wars, and I still think it's unwatchable.
But here's the thing. Anakin Skywalker story terrible. Throw it completely away. It's terrible, right? But Obi-Wan Kenobi's story with General Grievous and the mystery of finding the Clone Wars and stuff. It's like an old school detective story.
Yeah, but that all takes place after episode 2.
That's
no,
after
it doesn't.
episode. Grievous is not in Attack of the Clones.
He finds the clone army in episode 2. He goes to the planet. He fights Jango Fett. He does find the planet that General Grievous is on, all in episode.
And he gets captured, and then
which is true. Yeah. Right. But I'm saying his storyline, if you watch that separately, it's actually a pretty good storyline.
But that all sets.
But do you feel like it's executed well within the confines of the feature film?
Also, I'm going to say Palpatine is the point that that I brought up with episode 1, where he's doing the political nonsense and manipulating the system and proving how terrible things are. All happens mostly in episode 2. So I actually think if you completely take Anakin Skywalker out of the movie, it's a pretty good movie, or at least a decent movie. But yes, Anakin Skywalker is terrible.
It's still got Dooku, and I thought he was awful.
Dooku is the reflection, though, of how terrible the Jedi are. Like, you needed that physical person. Like, yeah, maybe he did a terrible job at it. He's a very old man. So it would have been cooler to see him and Yoda actually fight instead of just back to A New Hope style lightsaber battles. But I thought that he was needed to show why the Jedi are so terrible.
Sure. But I don't think there was anything else that character brought to the movie. Really, like I never really cared for him. Like I said, the very first time I watched that one, I thought the lightsaber fights were really cool, like really exciting the very first time. And most of it was just because there were like two things. It's like, we got to see Anakin Skywalker wielding 2 lightsabers at the same time, which was amazing at the time. And then we got to see Yoda, and he fucking like actually uses a lightsaber, and it's so awesome, and we've never seen it before. And he's flipping around and doing all this crazy stuff. But then like every time I've seen it since then, I'm just like, this just feels like obvious fan service stuff. It doesn't feel like a well choreographed scene, like fight scene or anything like that.
And that fight lasts like a minute long, like between like Obi-Wan and Anakin fighting him. Obi-Wan gets taken out like a bitch within like 10
which
seconds.
Made no sense.
And then like Annie loses his arm, and that's like a minute long fight. And then Yoda comes in, he's a jumping bean for 3 seconds like around him. It's just ludicrous, man.
It was ludicrous. And like, just to continue with kind of my synopsis of this one, and I put it in unwatchable as well. Like it's the only movie in the entire saga that I don't look forward to watching. Like when I do, like I'll do like a rewatch of the whole films. Like every time a new one comes out or whatever, I'll like rewatch them all in chronological order. And I always watch all of them, but episode 2 is the one that I don't look forward to. And it's the one where while I'm watching it, every time I'm just like, this is so cringeworthy. The romance between Anakin and Padme is so forced, it's so unbelievable, and the dialogue is so bad that it just makes me like, it hurts me to watch whenever they have these scenes where they're talking about how much they, I've got these feelings for you and it's so painful. And I'm like, oh God, like when I was a teenager, I didn't notice how bad that was. I was just like, oh man, you know, they love each other. And I'm not sure if I really buy into, I'm like, I'm not sure if I really buy into this chemistry, but whatever, it's fine. They clearly love each other. And as I get older, I'm just like, this is so stupid. And they spend so much time on it. I will say there's one thing I love about that movie, and it's the only thing I could think of that I would say I love, and it's the theme song for the two of them. The like, what is it? Stars Crossed or something? Across the Stars, I think, is their theme song. Yeah. Phenomenal piece of music, and they play it several times in that movie, and I love that. That's the only thing that I really love about that movie. And other than that, it just pains me every time.
All right, Matt, you're the last voter here.
I was gonna also put it on unwatchable, but I mean,
okay. I don't know if averages work in your favor here, Troy.
I think it's just gonna be. I already know. I will just honestly remind myself of Black Panther and the Marvel. I understand that this is not the hill I'll die on. All right, don't worry. As far as it comes to Star Wars movies, I already know there's one.
Right. I think Matt should start the next one because he's always having to wait for everybody else.
Yeah, here we go.
No, it's fine. No. Like.
You get to start episode 3, Revenge of the Sith.
That's probably going in between the other two, so into watchable for me. I don't have a ton to say about it. It's been the prequels. It's been so long since I've seen most of them, and I probably should have watched any of those anytime recently. But I don't remember walking out hating it. I mean. The one thing that I will say about all the prequels is they're super meme worthy. So there's at least that. But it's definitely better than episode 2 for me. I don't think it's. I don't have much else to say. Yeah, I would put it in watchable for me.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same. Like, I saw it in theaters, and I remember after seeing it, I thought it was dope as fuck. And then going back to, like, rewatch it, and just how blatant, like, every, like, room they're in is just, you can tell it's a green screen. Mm-hmm. And it just, like, is visually just so off-putting that I'm just like, oh, dude, like, I can't even, like, stand... Like, and then there's like some real cringeworthy scenes with Anakin and Padme in that one too. I'm just like, oh my God.
We haven't mentioned just how ungodly terrible Hayden Christensen is as an actor.
But everyone's so excited he's going to be in the
movie. That's the internet, Troy. That's what happens over time. You appreciate these things that you've been memeing about for the last like 10 years.
I thought there was a noticeable difference in his acting, like, ability between episodes 2 and 3. In 2, I thought he was really bad. In 3, I was like, I can stand him. He's not terrible. I would have liked better.
But he physically was good because he did really well in that last fight and shit, and he looked fine. But it's just like. I mean, and he's got horrible dialogue to deal with. We'll
yes.
Face with that as well.
I don't blame him.
But I would also argue go see him in any other film he's ever been in, and still tell me if he's a good actor. And
I saw one other movie he was in. I don't remember what it was. Some romance movie about a house that my mom was watching, and he was actually good. No, he was actually perfectly good in that. So I was like, okay, he can act. He just had a bad part, you know.
But I stand with Matt. I would put it in watchable. I don't think I would put it in front of episode 1, but I definitely would not put it in the same category as episode 2.
My biggest beef with it is just, like Justin started with it, and like I mentioned earlier, it's just so hideous to look at. It looks like it's made for sci-fi television channel. Like, it's really horrible to look at, but like, there's some really dope lightsaber battles. I like Grievous. I think he's cool.
True.
I think the ludicrousness about the plot-wise, what I hate the most is the Padme storyline is ridiculous. She dies because she's so like heartbroken or whatever, and that's legitimately how she dies. And on top of that, like Mace Windu goes out like a little bitch. And I just hate all that. But like, it's got some cool fights. Like, I think I love Obi-Wan in that movie. I think he's great. It sets up the saga, I guess, but in a really clunky way. Like that the whole, like I mentioned, the whole Padme thing is really terrible, and like that they did not stick that landing at all. I mean, like Anakin just slices a bunch of younglings to death, which is really memeable.
As he's too far, as he healed Mace Windu, it's like hop healing another hop, and there's no going back. Like you're gonna get caught. This guy owns you. Palpatine basically owns you. You're too far in. You know, it's like you're stuck. You're a bitch.
So
you gotta do
so
whatever.
You gotta double down and kill a bunch of kids,
right?
No, the thing is, he doesn't want to. Like, I don't think he wants to.
No.
The thing is, like, I don't even remember the beginning of the movie. I legitimately don't.
They go to the Star Destroyer ship. Obi-Wan and Anakin are trying to crash and save,
and the hills, Hound Dooku, right?
Yeah.
And there's some stuff, but from the moment that Hayden Christensen kills Samuel L. Jackson in real life, the moment that happens, the movie's good for me. I honestly think that Hayden Christensen is given really good lines. The whole setup between Obi-Wan and Anakin right before they fight, I actually love that dialogue. It's where he says, like, only a Sith deals in absolutes. That's probably one of my favorite lines in the entire series. As the whole point of the prequels wasn't that the Jedi are the good guys and the Sith are the bad guys. It's that the Jedis are the people who should care more about analyzing the situation and knowledge and not care about fighting and winning, and that the Sith are the people who only care about power and winning, regardless of if it's for good or evil, which are abstract concepts. Like, that's what the whole point of the prequels to me are, and I think they do that really well in the climax of this movie. And Palpatine finally does Order 66, and you're sitting there watching for like what 5 years, this old asshole like set up and manipulate all these people. And I think this is the one also where he gets given executive order power, and everyone is like cheering for him, and Padme is the only one that's like, this guy is a fucking asshole. It's like 78 million people voting for Donald Trump. Like, you're fucking giving away your goddamn freedoms and power, and you're doing it with an applause. So I actually really do like the payoff of episode 3.
How do you feel about the end where he's like, no?
Oh, I mean, that's terrible. Absolutely. Yeah, without a doubt. But that's the thing though. Like I'm not going to let, like you said, the memes. Like, I'm not going to let that to me is a memeable moment. Just as that's lame doesn't ruin.
I really enjoy the movie on an ironic level. I think it's like bad, but I think it's so bad that I think it's funny and enjoyable. But and it's got some dope action scenes in it. Like, I mean, my overall rating I think would be behind episode 1 in the decent category. But that's
I would like that. Yeah.
I didn't hear if Troy voted yet on. Oh, you just did. Yeah, decent.
Yeah.
So
I agreed with Tanner. Yeah.
Okay, so, and I'm probably going to say decent as well, overall. Like, I felt like the movie has a lot of flaws, a lot of the same ones that you guys already brought up. I didn't really notice CG issues so much in that one, aside from the beginning of the movie. Like, there's one specific shot that I hate every time I see it, when they're on that, like, Star Cruiser to rescue Palpatine from Dooku.
The elevator?
Dooku walks out onto the balcony and does that little front flip down onto the lower level. It looks so bad every time, and it looked bad in the theater. And usually, like, in the theater, you don't notice stuff like that, and then you watch it on video later, and you're like, oh god, that looks terrible. That always looked bad. I'm like, why did you do that?
Well, it's like, because they cast Christopher Lee, who's
he's
like a legend, and he's
thing.
like 80 years old in that movie, and like you'll notice the entire, not even just that wide shot, like almost all of the shots, he's not actually fighting him at all. He only does the close-ups shots. Like, they zoom into him, but anything else besides that in the battle is a wide shot, because it's not him. He can barely walk.
No, that makes sense. But like you don't need to do a shot where the dude flips off of a balcony. You could have come up with some other way for him to
Yoda Mexican jumping bean,
it looked like that, which I don't know. I just thought there were a lot of weird things about the movie. Like, I didn't really like the whole intro sequence. Like, I kind of like the starship fight part of it, but like the whole idea that they were just like suddenly rescuing Palpatine, who is kidnapped before the movie started, off screen. It just felt like we were like thrown into the middle of the movie, which I just thought that was always jarring to me.
Well, I believe somebody correct me if I'm wrong, because I remember that there was another Star Wars Clone Wars TV series from the guy who made Samurai Jack.
Yeah,
that was on Cartoon Network back in the day, and I
that
believe
apparently goes like right up to that or something.
yes, I believe that show like set it up. But those were like 2-minute episodes or something crazy like that.
But
I remember watching them.
But of all the Star Wars movies, like we now have animated series and different things and stuff that take place between certain movies. But if you don't know about those things and don't watch those things, the movies still work standalone by themselves if you just go from movie to movie. And that one was the one where I felt like I was missing something going from episode 2 to episode 3, having not seen anything in between. So there's that. I didn't particularly care for Grievous's character. I like him more now that I've seen him in Clone Wars. But I just felt like he was super weird. I didn't like his name. I just thought it was just like really lacked originality and stuff. But I say decent because I really felt like Troy pointed out, like Hayden Christensen as Anakin got a lot more interesting when he finally did go dark. I kind of felt like seeing that moment was like realizing, oh, they literally cast this actor because of the moody, dark stuff that he's eventually going to do. That's why he seems so awkward until now, because that's where he really kind of came into his own skin, was playing Anakin going dark. And then I almost would put this movie in pretty good for one reason alone, but I'm not going to. But there's one thing that makes me almost want to do it, which is Palpatine was just phenomenal in that movie. I loved every scene that he was in. Like, I just hang on his words. Like, it's so good. Like the scene where he's talking about Plagueis, Darth Plagueis, and you know how he could bring people back from the dead, and then he was killed by his apprentice, and you're like, oh shit, I know what he's saying. So like that's a great scene. The scene when Anakin finally figures out what's going on and he's holding his lightsaber up to his neck and everything. It's just like there's just like so much like pregnant emotion in those scenes, that like every time I'm watching them, even if I'm watching in the background, when it gets to like the scenes with Palpatine, I have to stop and look at the TV and just like stare at it because he's just captivating. He's always like, just Ian McDiarmid as an actor has always like brought something to that role in every movie that he's in. Like in episode 6, like Return of the Jedi used to be one of my favorites a long time ago, and it was primarily just because of Palpatine. Every scene he's in is just amazing. But yeah, I'm fine with decent for that movie. I would agree with you guys overall.
All right. I was like, Revenge of the Sith, decent it is. So then now we are done with the prequel trilogy, and now we are getting to the original trilogy with episode 4, A New Hope.
It's a seminal classic, you know?
It's a classic, so...
Like, even if you take away the entire saga and just keep that one as it was, you know, originally done, you know, just one movie, it's really solid. I'd put it at the front of great or the back end of God tier as far as like the whole tier list goes. I don't have a whole lot to say. It's just a really great classic hero's journey. It's like the end all be all that you would reference to make such a story. You know?
It truly was a Star Wars.
I mean, I agree 100% with Tanner. I would probably put it top end of great or back end of God tier because, again, there's not much you can say about Star Wars A New Hope that hasn't already been said, but it's just, it is the hero's journey. Like, if you're gonna like reference something, like everyone's used that example, it as an example everywhere in like story writing class and everything. So I don't know what I could say about it. Anyone else got something interesting to say? Maybe Brandon, whenever he was in high school, he watched it.
I was young when I first watched that. Come on.
Yeah, he saw it in theaters.
I mean, that movie came out before I was born. I saw it as a kid. I'm a little bit behind you guys on this one. I would put it a little bit lower. Like I think it's probably great, but I might put it like borderline pretty good. Just because like, yeah, it's a really solid movie. You can't really fault it a lot on how good it is as a movie in general. And I'm not gonna like pick apart, you know, the fact that they didn't have the technology to do certain things the way that they do now and that they could do in the other movies. But I still, when I look at that movie compared to all of the movies as a whole and how much more is going on, like how much more, you know, deep some of the storylines are and the characters that we get, you know, I feel like this movie is a little bit more basic.
So, like I would love to see a really epic showdown between Obi-Wan and Vader, and it never felt epic. And that's why you get things like that fan movie or that fan, clip where they kind of redid it the way that like I think everybody sort of wanted to see it happen. I don't know. I don't think there's a lot that I can say about it either, but I wouldn't put it above great in my personal opinion. But I think it would be fine. I think that'd be fine to put it there.
Yeah, I'm sort of the same with Brandon. I think it's pretty good. Like when Rise of the Skywalker came out, I got my fiance to watch all the movies, and she hadn't watched any of them. And like even through the prequels, whether they're good or bad, they were exciting. You were watching them, like you can say a lot about some of these other movies, but this one was just sort of boring. Like she was on her phone a lot, as a lot wasn't really happening, So I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad movie by any means, but yeah, compared to the other ones, like it is a pretty boring movie. Like if you're just someone watching it outside of like being a Star Wars nerd,
I think it's kind of an unfair comparison, though. I mean, considering like one movie came out 43 years ago, and it was like the first of its kind, and it had like a small budget.
Was it a first?
And
of its
like,
kind,
what
though?
you're expecting? Like, why aren't they having this massive fucking samurai
No,
duel
I'm not
in the middle of the
saying-
movie? It's
I'm
like,
not saying
these
that we need
lightsaber
to
battles
have-
are boring, guys.
I'm
This
not
movie
saying-
fucking sucks.
I'm not
Like,
saying that
it's
the
a Star
fight itself.
Wars. The
I'm not
point
saying
of
that
the
the
movie was
fight
to
itself
replicate
was boring.
the Vietnam War. The point of the movie
I've
was
seen
the
more
space
exciting Vietnam
battles.
War movies.
The
Hey,
point
they
of
still
the
had
movie,
samurai movies that had really exciting like sword fights in them. They
Yeah,
could've
I'm
done
not
something
blaming the technology or even like blaming like how they shot some things. The movie itself is like you could in one sentence, all right, nobody hid, it's dragged into a war, becomes a hero. Like there really isn't a lot that happens in the movie itself. The scenes themselves are very basic. Like
it's a character-driven film. You're getting introduced to a whole realm in this set of flanks. Like the character building here is amazing. Like one movie, A New Hope, I learned so much and cared so much more about the characters in that film than I gave a shit about any of the characters throughout the entirety of the prequel trilogy.
all of the that's the biggest difference between the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy. The prequel trilogy is a world building like series. The original trilogy is character stories. That's where they shine overall, I think, is the characters.
Yeah, fucking Harrison Ford, for God's sakes.
He's great. Yeah.
Like,
I also want to say I
mean-
feel like Darth Vader is a little bit impotent in the original movie because
yeah,
aside
he
from
wasn't. Yeah, he's like a lackey in the. first
aside
movie,
from
yeah.
like choking the guy early on, and
he was
like
a lackey in every movie. There is never a time when Darth Vader is the bad guy. He's always.
But
in
like we'll
the
get to like Empire
prequels,
Strikes
in
Back where
episode
he's more
3,
effective.
in 4, 5, 6. Yeah,
The
but he's
comic
never
books,
the
anything
bad.
along the lines.
He's always the right hand man to the actual enemy that is Palpatine. Darth Vader. As much as I love, like, don't get me wrong, I love Darth Vader, but he is not the bad guy of this movie.
But in the
of this
original,
franchise.
I guess I'm going back to when this movie first came out, when you don't know anything about the Emperor. All you know is Darth Vader. He's the big bad guy. They made him look like the big bad guy, and then he fights Obi-Wan, doesn't really do... I mean, he kills him, but, I think the fight was a little lackluster.
no,
and then at the end, he just, he flies his TIE fighter, does almost nothing, and then gets spun out into space.
No, I'm even going to disagree with you there, because when he's in the room with everyone, all of the Empire soldiers, like they're sitting there saying like, oh, hey, we need to do this. And Darth Vader's in the corner being like, fuck you guys. And they're like, hey, get out of here, you fucking weird munt, you with your wizard powers. Like he doesn't even control the soldiers he's around in the first movie.
Right.
So I've never seen him as the guy who's in charge of the Empire. The Empire is the bad guy.
Yeah, I'm not saying like I felt like he was the one in charge. I mean, it seemed like Moff Tarkin had more power than he did, at least on the Death Star.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just felt like by the end of that movie, when the guy in the big scary black suit that's coming after Luke Skywalker gets spun out into space, you're kind of just like, oh, okay, well, that's what happens then. So,
Justin?
I mean, I would put it I'd put it in great. I thought, it's a classic. Like, it's a great, and it's like Terrence said, like, I think the reason, like you were saying, like, a lot, like the original trilogy did a lot, like the reason, like the prequels, where it's like you have this like pre-sense of all these characters because it's like of like what Anakin's like going to be, or Han or Leia, like where, because it's like you already like had these characters fleshed out and developed and stuff in the original trilogy so well. So I mean, I would put it in great. But
I wanted to mention a couple of things real quick about Rogue One earlier. I forgot to mention, in that fucking movie they make Darth Vader do a pun, and it like chills my spine.
Yeah, don't choke on your aspirations.
That's the one. Yep.
Yeah.
There's that.
Yeah, I wasn't in love with that.
Yeah, well, I mean, how is that any different when he tells Han Solo to take a seat in Empire Strikes Back? Darth Vader is always taught shit.
That's not a pun.
Yeah, I didn't think that's
in the context of it. I think the Darth Vader, it did not seem weird to me.
Han Solo's in a wheelchair and he's like, take a seat.
No.
I'm just saying, Darth Vader always had an attitude. He always taught shit. Like, he always rats.
Well, yeah. Like, if you look at like Anakin in the prequels, he did have corny lines, so it kind of fits with that.
Oh, that was the other thing I wanted to bring up. Yeah, so this is all George Lucas's fault. That also bringing back to these unfair comparison expectations that we get really dope lightsaber battles in the prequels, and they're extremely lame in the original trilogy because at the time George Lucas was insistent that lightsabers were like Excalibur, and they're huge. Like swords that have to be held with two hands, not Darth Vader because he's like mechanical and he can do it with one hand. But that's why Luke and Obi-Wan in the old movies are fighting like this, because George Lucas was like, no, because Mark Hamill wanted to do that shit, and he'd be like, wouldn't it be more interesting if I could do it like fencing like this? And then George Lucas was like, no, it's Excalibur. It takes two hands, it's heavy, and you have to hold it like that. And that is why the lightsaber battles fucking suck in the original three movies.
And then what, he just changed his mind?
And he retconned his own shit in the prequels. That is a fact. You can look it up.
Fun fact.
Hey, by the way, you brought up Vader in that one scene in Rogue One that we didn't talk about before, where he's on Mustafar talking to Krennic. Did anybody else feel like Vader looked and sounded a little weird in that scene? Because every time I watch it, I'm like, I feel like there's something about like that the part of his suit around his neck, it looks like it's a little bit flanged out too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one flare that I did enjoy though, they went back to the red.
The red
eyes,
the lenses. Yeah, that's cool.
I like that.
But I felt like James Earl Jones's voice in that one too. You could kind of start to hear his age, and I was like, it sounds a little bit off.
So where are we putting in?
I guess we're landing in great somewhere. I would say at the front of great, but I'll let you guys debate that as well.
I would also say at the front of great because me and Tanner are like.
I vote for back of great because I almost want to put it in pretty good.
Yeah, I vote back of great also. So Justin,
you're
maybe put it in the middle.
Yeah, put it in between Solo and Rogue One.
I was gonna say, to me, everyone in the middle, since like half of us thought it was like kind of front of great, other half thought it shouldn't have even really been great at all.
Put it in the middle.
No, I'm just gonna put it at the end of great. Because it was great, and then that way it's not in pretty good, but it still falls under the great category, so I feel like it appeases everybody.
Okay.
Now, Empire Strikes Back. I mean, I don't know how much debate there. I'm pretty sure this one's God tier.
God tier.
Yeah, God tier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
Question.
Yeah, I didn't think there was going to be much argument for that being.
I really don't want to be just like, a yes man fanboy and say the same thing that everybody else says because everybody else says it. But it really is like every time I watch that movie, I'm like, okay, this is the one that everybody says is the best one. Do I still think it's the best one? And every time I watch it, I'm like, God, that movie is so good. It really is. The character stuff and like specifically Han Solo and Leia, their relationship in that movie is just like, it's so believable. Like their chemistry is so good. Every time when they put him into the carbonite and they have the little like iconic "I love you, I know" thing, I'm just like, that is just genius. That is like one of the best scenes in like the entire saga, if not in movies in general.
So good.
One dig I'll say is when he has Luke and Leia Mac for a sec there. Like, that was an odd choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. In retrospect, it's kind of weird.
Especially since he had this all conceived the whole time. He knew the whole plan of the whole series.
Yeah.
They
Oh,
definitely
Let her lay it on him in that.
I also want to say that we just talked about lightsaber fights being like lackluster in the original trilogy. I do really appreciate the lightsaber battle or battles, however you want to call it, that happened in this one between Luke and Vader, because I love that it's
an emotional battle.
It's an emotional battle. It's slow. It's drawn out. It's in multiple phases. It's like, it's so cool. Like it moves to different places. Like it was really, really good, especially for the time.
Yeah, and I mean, it's been done 100 million times since then, but the bad guy being the good guy's father, that was the first time that happened.
Yeah.
Like you guys were talking about A New Hope being like the structure that all other movies are based off of. I feel that it's more this one, like going and being trained by crazy Yoda. You see that all the time now. The emotional connection between the bad guy and good guy, not just you're bad, but there actually being more complexity to it.
The difference is most stories don't end with every character losing.
Yeah.
Which is how Empire ends.
Well, I mean, I feel like I actually see that. Yeah. There was one part that I don't know if it's in this one or if it's in the next one, but it's always infused me every time I've watched. As I rarely just watch one movie. If I'm watching an old Star Wars movie, it's as I'm watching a bunch of them. But the part where it's Yoda talking to Obi-Wan Kenobi, that's in this one, right?
Yes.
Yoda talking to Ghost Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Right before Luke flies off of Dagobah to go to Cloud
he has
City.
to convince him to like keep him there.
Yeah. Like, and there's a part where he says like, "Oh, and there's another," and they always said it was Leia, but every time I've watched that movie, it makes no sense being Leia or the context. Like, I don't know, like the movie.
Yeah, it's like, why were they already giving up on him
Leia
or something?
Yeah, like it's just it makes it seem like, oh well, Luke didn't finish his training. I didn't want to train him at all, anyways. He's gonna return to the dark side. But don't worry, we got Leia, who in this movie, there's no way, shape, or form it's ever been mentioned outside of that line that she is related. That she has, like, so it just always felt like one of those Heaven Fate reverse answers, like, oh yeah, that's what we meant the whole time.
I think you make a really good point.
organic
Yeah,
to me.
it does, especially watching it now. Like I've noticed that one more. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Did everybody vote? I don't think Matt voted.
I mean, yeah, it was pretty much unanimous. It was a unanimous vote at the beginning that it was God tier. So then now we are on to the finale of the original trilogy, Return of the Jedi.
Pretty good for me. It's really silly in a lot of areas. Like, I really like the first act on Tatooine. That shit's really dope. And then I feel like it really falls apart after that. Like, just that the argument that many people have made that the entire, like, you know, Empire gets taken down by Ewoks is kind of silly. I don't know. I think it's really good in a lot of ways, but I think like it's really ridiculous in most ways. That's all I have to say.
I don't particularly care for the Ewoks. When I was a kid, I didn't mind. Like, I didn't really think anything about them at all. As I've gotten older, I'm like, oh god, like couldn't they have done something else? Like they're just too corny. And I know that the whole reason they were created was for merchandising and stuff back at the time, that they did it for like financial reasons. I don't have a problem at all with the fact that the Ewoks played such a big part in the Empire's downfall. I actually think there's a really cool kind of like poetic justice to it, in the fact that the Emperor being so powerful and so, you know, all-knowing, not that he was necessarily all-knowing, but like he, throughout this series of movies, he set himself up to be this mastermind who's just thought of everything and he's played everybody. The fact that his downfall was this little race of like animalistic characters that he basically either didn't know they existed or he wrote them off as complete, you know, waste of time. You're not worth me even being worried about, that they were the ones that defeated him. It's kind of like the Lord of the Rings thing with like the hobbits being the ones to defeat Sauron by
kind of going under the radar because nobody expects anything of them. I really like that angle of it. Like that was the only way. His downfall was not treating an entire group of like people in a sense as like people, or like they were worth his consideration, and they were like the crux of his downfall, or at least a piece of it. You know, they played a big part of it. So I appreciate that. I don't really like them as characters. I think they're annoying.
I think a lot of it too is just I love Han so much, and Empire was Han's movie, and like Jedi is Luke's movie, and I just never really cared for Luke. I think he's really annoying in a lot of ways.
I feel like I always like Luke. I like both of them. I feel like you said the intro scene, you like the whole Tatooine thing with Jabba's palace. I feel like that sequence, I like it, but I feel like it drags on a little too long.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
And I kind of wanted, I almost like looking back on the movie now, like I loved it. It was my favorite one when the original trilogy was all that we had. It was my favorite one for a long time as a kid and stuff, until I eventually started looking at Empire in a different light. But the main reasons that I love Return of the Jedi or my favorite things about it are all of the Luke and Emperor and Vader stuff. And so I wanted kind of more of that. I felt like the movie only gave us like a few things. We had like the sequence that I felt like was too long in Jabba's palace, and then we had everything on Endor, and then we had the Death Star. I just felt like it's a little bit too narrow. Like I kind of wanted more from that movie. I don't know why. But as far as ranking, I want to put it in pretty good. I think I would definitely put it in pretty good.
So we got two pretty good so far.
Well, I might as well speak up then. I really think that this is a terrible movie. Here's the thing. The end with Vader, Luke, and the Emperor, awesome. Probably one of the coolest scenes in the entire original trilogy.
Yes.
And it does a lot for, the characters are perfect, right? And I do like the beginning a little bit with Jabba's palace, and like the Rancor fight, as bad as it looks right now. But yeah, the fact that they have a second Death Star is really stupid and unoriginal and dumb.
It's really unoriginal and dumb, Troy. You don't say. It's like
you have
that at some point.
It's we're gonna do it again in another movie, but and then you have they kill off Boba Fett like a little bitch, in my opinion.
Boba Fett.
Like fucking, it's terrible, and it's such a bad
it's so
thing
funny.
That
It's so
it
funny.
3 different times by now.
Well, it's just to be fair, like everybody was always like Boba Fett, but he was like a nothing character.
I agree.
He looked really cool. That was it.
I like Jango Fett way more in episode 2, and that's part of the reason why I like episode 2 so much. Is Jango Fett is the version of Boba Fett that everyone thinks Boba Fett is.
Right.
You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't really care for any of the Endor stuff at all. And like even the part where it's Stormtroopers versus the Ewoks, say whatever you're gonna say about that. But there's a whole section where it's like Leia gets her hair braided and they fucking worship C-3PO because he's shiny, and it's again kind of a little racist against Native Americans. And I think that majority of that movie is not just like bad. It actually distracts from the good part, which is Lucy Skywalker just finds out that Darth Vader is his father. There's a lot of complexity. Luke Skywalker has to like come to terms with it. He's trying to save his father, and it's almost drowned out by a lot of really, really dumb decisions in that movie. So I would put it at like watchable, back end of decent.
Actually, I feel like I have to change mine to decent because I'm looking at my lists, and in both of my lists, that movie is in the same spot, which is like third from the bottom. So I would say decent for this one. So I think compared to some of the other ones, it's not nearly as high.
So initially, I was going to put it in pretty good, but now that you all have refreshed my memory on all of it, as it's been a little bit, I'd probably put it in decent because I think I agree. A lot of the Ewok stuff really does distract from it. And despite how good the last act is, like that doesn't make up for a lot of the weirdness that's going on.
Yeah, I really watched that movie for the last act. Like that's the part that I really care about.
I mean, I've also always been a Boba Fett fan, so I mean, they kind of. I mean, Star Wars is famous for killing off cool-looking characters, and I think there's just a tradition at this point that they just kill them off for fuck all who knows reasons.
Oh, I wish they would have done that in episode 9, but we'll get there.
Where indecent though?
Yeah, would you put it after Revenge of the Sith? Or would you put it before Revenge of the Sith and after Phantom Menace? Or would you put it
I'd probably put it in between those two. That would be my thought. What's everyone else's thought?
I might keep.
I can take that.
I'm the same. Where it's at right now, I think is fine.
I don't really care anyway. That we put it there. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, I guess it is staying then, but in the back of decent.
All right, now we get into Disney, baby.
Yes. Now after the original trilogy and then the prequels came a long pause, and then they were like, "Man, we could be making more money in the Star Wars franchise," and they were like, "Let's make 3 more movies."
Well, they gave George Lucas $4 billion for the rights to do that.
Exactly.
And then they switched up the directors a few times, and nobody knows what direction they were going in.
And then they gave EA the video game rights.
Oh, I do want to say one thing about the Return of the Jedi is, what was it? The Battlefield 2 game had like DLC where you play as a stormtrooper, or it was like a Halloween live ops event. You play as a stormtrooper on Endor fighting Ewoks, and it's fucking terrifying. Like it actually made the Ewoks cooler somehow. Like,
I don't think that was just a DLC. That was oh wait. No, yeah, I think that was part of the Prime game, wasn't it? Playing that main character.
I'm not 100% sure, as I didn't play Battlefield 2, but I remember watching like gameplay of you as a stormtrooper. Like it's nighttime, the only light is fires that the Ewoks are lighting, and then these like little midget things are terrifying and they come up and like attack you and kill you. It was actually they make Ewoks look cool for the first time ever.
That's funny.
So then the first movie is Force Episode 7, Force Awakens.
I think it's great. I think it's a really solid movie.
I've always really liked Force Awakens. Like, even if you separate, just like think about it on its own, like go back to 2015 when you just saw this movie and you haven't seen any others. Like, I was really into what they were putting out there at the time, and I still like it. I still like it a lot.
Same.
Yeah, I was like, we just rewatched the new trilogy again and stuff, and I was like, man, I get that it got harped on for like being.
It's the same movie as the original movie.
Yeah. But it's one of those things where it's like, I feel like as much as people ripped on it for being that, I feel like if it was anything else, it would have got torn apart even harder. Like I felt like it had to be that.
I think they met in the middle and they found a safe route. And
exactly. It had
I think that was probably
like,
the smartest way to go.
Yeah. And it's like, I thought though, like, Finn had like some really cool moments in the movie that he's never gonna get again. And so I thought like,
unfortunately.
Yeah. So I thought that was cool. Like the setup for like what was to come, I thought was great.
It was really promising at the time. Yeah,
exactly. So I mean, I thought it was. I would definitely I would honestly put it in great or at the end of God tier.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I'd put it at the front of great or end of God tier myself.
Yeah, I agree with Tanner.
What about you, Troy?
I really liked it too. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, well, this is the movie I'll tell you all the fuck off on. No, I liked it a lot. And the thing is, I don't believe in that whole, oh, it's the same as episode 4. Like, there's no Finn character. I don't think that there's a Han Solo character. Like, there's no Finn character in 4. There's no Han Solo character. Like, Poe is not Han Solo. They're completely different characters. Yeah, I liked it a lot too. So I'm fine with front of rate. I wouldn't say it's God tier, but yeah.
Okay. I was like, man.
I mean, I'd agree with Troy. Like, I'm in the same boat where originally, whenever I walked out of it, I'm like, This is a lot like A New Hope, but like going back and thinking about it, I don't think it's as close to A New Hope as like people make it out to be. Yeah, it follows the hero journey, which, you know, is A New Hope, but I don't think that it's like as close to A New Hope as everyone makes it out to be.
Yeah, like you can make the comparisons between Starkiller Base and the Death Star, and like finding Rey on this desert planet, and Luke came from a desert planet, and
yeah, I think that's really, those are the most comparisons you can actually make.
When you got and Han Solo as the mentor versus Obi-Wan as the mentor, like there was that comparison as well. But other than that, it's its own movie.
And a lot of people were giving Kylo Ren shit. Like in that first movie, people were referring to him as like a Disney princess, as he would be very emotional.
Right.
But like that's what the Siths are, the force wielders that are emotional. Like I think he did a really good job. I don't think or maybe they were skirting the line with trying to make him a Darth Vader 2.0, but it made sense for the character. He was trying to be Darth Vader 2.0.
Yeah, he was.
I love Adam Driver. He's amazing in everything.
Well, yes, he is.
Yeah.
The only thing I will say that I didn't like about it is the fact that Rey, 2 seconds after she finds out that she's a Force user, she can use Jedi mind tricks. Like,
I agree with that. That was a little ludicrous for sure.
Yeah, that's honestly the one major thing that I have a problem with. The rest of it is fine.
Yeah.
Like I know a lot of people have issues with the final fight scene, where she was able to like sort of hold her own against Adam Driver. But like Adam Driver
he was injured,
shot in the fucking stomach with a bowcaster.
From the bowcaster, which blows people up.
Had to sit there and fucking hike 17 miles away from the base to go find her in the woods.
Yeah.
Literally got into a fight with
fought Finn first.
Finn, whooped his ass, and then
and also as a callback to George Lucas's original wishes, his lightsaber is literally like Excalibur. It is a very heavy, huge blade.
Right.
Yeah, and even then, like the fight scene with him and Rey, like it's really just her like defending herself.
Yeah.
And him, he's trying not to kill her as he wants to bring her back and turn her.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I have criticism with the criticism of that movie.
Agreed.
Totally. I agree.
No, I agree 100%. And I'm still sad that they threw away a lot of the character arcs for Finn in the later stuff. But I guess
we're getting into that.
Yeah.
So I think we can all agree then that it goes at the front of great.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, dude. Then moving on to the second movie in the new trilogy, Star Wars: The Last Jedi. And I'm gonna say right off the bat, I fucking hate this movie. I did not see it in theaters. I watched a shitty cam of it, and then I never felt like I needed to watch an HD version of it.
Well, dude, that's not fair.
Okay. Well, nothing had to do with the vid. The first 15 or 20 minutes of the movie just pissed me up. Leia pulls herself with the Force through fucking space.
That was awesome.
Never done that before, ever, in any of the movies. And all of a sudden,
look how old she is now. She's finally got a good mastery of the Force.
So then why the fuck is she not just Force choking motherfuckers and actually why is she hiding in a fucking base when she can
do. She can do that.
So my complaint about that whole scene is you had a perfectly good opportunity to kill off Leia in a perfectly legitimate time to do it.
I think that would have been really
bad taste, Matt.
Yeah, exactly. I think that would have been really insensitive.
Instead of
think having the scene at all is insensitive because we were all going into it being like, well, what are they going to do with her? We know she died in real life. And the fact that they kill her off at all to even then retcon it immediately, right? But the fact that they even go through with the scene, I thought was really insensitive.
She died the week the movie came out.
Yeah.
It's impossible to do
that. I'm not saying, that it was.
How dare they keep that scene? They'd have to rework the whole thing. It's
that's
not a feasible thing.
You know what I thought they should have done, because they might have, if it was still in post-production at the time, is at the very end when everybody gets on the Millennium Falcon to take off and everything from the base, and she's on with everybody else. I thought they should have had her go off into a little room in the side of the Millennium Falcon, lay down on a bed, and then she just vanishes. You know, or like you don't even have to show her vanish. They just walk into the room later and she's just gone.
They just think she's naked somewhere because her clothes are just laying on the bed.
They should have had her driving next to Vin Diesel, all right, with a really bad CG as some music is playing, and then she gets off, the off ramp as a symbolic, goodbye. That's what they should have done.
Vin Diesel's on the Millennium Falcon. He's like, I'd do anything for family.
Yeah.
But no, that whole scene, like, pissed, like the fact that they never introduced that at all, and that's like the first time you're seeing her do anything with the Force, and it's like some like over the top like fucking bullshit, like that immediately turned me off. And then the rest of the like movie, like I like the end, but like the beginning part just like really pissed me off, and then I don't know, wasn't a fan. Like, I like the whole thing where it's like, I guess the mirror image of like Luke standing there and stuff, and then I was like, fire, fire, fire.
Thing.
Like,
that was cool.
Like that part was like fun and stuff, but I was just like, man.
All right, I'm gonna say I fucking love this movie.
Yes, I was so afraid I would be the only one.
I adore this movie. It was God tier in my eyes. Man.
Yes, I think this is God tier as well.
I think it's right next to Empire Strikes Back as a beautiful piece of cinema and a beautiful piece of Star Wars lore. Go fuck yourself in your cams, Justin.
Okay, well, I wouldn't quite put it in God tier, but I want to say great, because I do love this movie too, but I just have some big issues with it. Like, I don't like anything they did with Finn's arc. I feel like it's a complete waste of time. I don't understand what he accomplished. I don't think he accomplished anything.
No, he didn't. He failed.
Yeah, but I will say
on whatever he was learning from the last movie.
I will say though that Benicio del Toro's character with Finn and Rose was awesome, and I loved him, that he was the guy who pointed out, you think that, like what the prequels did, like you think because you're the rebels that you're the good guys, but you're not. War is war. You have to have two sides to it. The best way to play, or the only way to win is not to play.
I like that, and I like the idea of Benicio del Toro's character. I didn't like his character in the movie, though. I couldn't stand the stutter or the lisp that they gave him. It was super distracting. Like, there's movies with characters that have a lisp or have a stutter and it's done well. I did not think that was one of them. He just distracted me every time he was on the screen. And like, I appreciated, like, I like to see other characters in the Star Wars universe. Like I said, with some of the other movies, like with Rogue One, we got to see other types of like classes. This guy was basically like, he was like the Imperial agent, he was the hacker guy. We got to see slicing on the screen where he's taking the little things and putting them in the console. Like, that was really cool. So I appreciated that, but other than that, I could do without his character. But yeah, this is mostly like, my issues with that movie are mostly about everything about Finn, Rose, that guy, that whole like sequence of the movie. I could do without it. Everything else I really enjoyed.
That's the only thing that like tears at me from, like, I still think it's God tier in my heart, but that's the thing that I dislike as well about the movie. But everything else is just
that whole part. You can cut all of it.
You could.
Here, but I will defend it. All right, because you guys, I'm not gonna say that it's the best performance of Finn. I would say it's definitely not the worst. But the thing about Finn is, he went from being a guy who wanted to run away in The Force Awakens, and he had no idea what he was doing. He wanted to bail. At the beginning of this movie, he wants to bail, right? He doesn't want to fight or anything. He's just kind of following along because he wants to have sex with Rey. And, who doesn't? But anyways, and then you introduce Rose, who's almost naively a hero, like I didn't like her when I saw her, but watching it later on, I appreciate at least what she does in relation to Finn. She creates, her and DJ with Finn create two like angel devil shoulder pieces, where the one guy is like, yeah, run away, who cares, don't do anything, don't care about anything. And Rose, who cares so much that it's almost a fucking bad character. Mm-hmm. And at the end, on Crate, he learns that being the hero, like saving the day, is what he really wants to do. Like, it's not like he's just following his Poe or Rey, or he like literally figures out that he actually does want to be a rebel by the end of this movie, and it's because of what happens with DJ and Rose. So I will defend. I think it's badly executed, and I think that the running through the casino looks very bad, but I don't think it's as bad as people give it credit for.
Oh, one more thing. Porgs are awesome, and that should make it God tier, actually. I changed my mind.
Well, I also like porgs.
Every time I watch that movie, I laugh. Like, I just have this, like, euphoric joy every time I see one.
Like, the one thing I thought that was funny is, like, when Rey hands Luke the lightsaber, and he's just like, cool, and then just, like, fucking throws it away. Like, I mean, that was funny. But then it's like, they kill fucking... They built up the one dude as like the bad guy in the first movie, and then all of a sudden Adam Driver just fucking kills him in like 2 seconds when they finally see him. I was like, that was
awesome.
That was it. Like, you just cut him in half. Like,
it would be awesome, Tanner, if they didn't have a whole nother third movie to fill content with.
That wasn't Ryan Johnson's problem. All right,
that whole fight was awesome too.
Yeah, the throne room scene. The throne room scene alone makes it God tier.
But they're two Jedi. Like, they could have just like. I feel like.
Apprentice Jedis.
He has a lightsaber that can cut through fucking anything except Beskar. Why did that last so long?
Because it's a big budget movie.
We
need to have action.
We see throughout all the movies many times that lightsabers do not cut through things, and basically anything with electricity can stop a lightsaber. So
right, like the vibro staffs and stuff, which is basically what those dudes are using.
So you could say why that didn't take it.
We haven't even talked about the best aspect of the movie, like, which is the building and ending of Luke Skywalker as a character. Like, it is fucking awesome. Like,
I mean, I did appreciate the ending of Luke Skywalker. I thought, I don't know,
what a fucking cool way to go out, right? That was just like the biggest flex.
Him trying to kill fucking Kylo, though, that's like,
he's not trying to kill anybody.
He's not there. He's not there.
You're talking about when he was like earlier in the flashback.
Oh, yeah, he doesn't either. He doesn't either.
I know he doesn't, but that
was a character building moment. That was huge for him.
He had a moment of weakness. A moment of doubt.
The thing, here's
you were Luke Skywalker and you saw what happened.
He's Luke Skywalker. He needs to be a great hero for the whole rest of eternity.
No, he needs to be human, and they made him human. I like that.
I'm human too, and I'm trying to kill kids. Like,
you're reading too many
his dad did it.
Yeah, look at where he came from.
His
dad had the darkness in him.
I think that's a really forced parallel after all the character growth. And
here's the thing. I think with that scene, them having 3 flashbacks and then being from the perspectives of 3 different characters, or 2 different characters 3 different ways. I don't think he ever was going to kill him. I don't think that there was ever a time where he like never. Like, I have a gun. I hold the gun. It doesn't matter. Like,
right.
If I don't pull the trigger, then I haven't shot anyone.
Maybe he lit up the lightsaber because he wanted to be ready to defend himself when he woke the kid up to have the talk or something, you know?
Yeah. He was just using it as a light to wake him up.
It was a dark room.
Ready.
It was
a
dark room.
All the younglings whenever he was there.
You use lightsabers as a flashlight, basically, and what's it called, Fallen Order. You know, maybe that's all he was doing. He was trying to get a better look.
Here's the thing that also I think a lot of people miss is Snoke has that awesome line where he is like, when there's the Force is always balanced, which is something that I love, right? And that's part of what's in the prequels is the Force is always balanced. You have literally no evil anymore. There's no Empire. There's no Palpatine or anything like that. And you have a school of all of these Jedis, and there's all these other extended universe stuff. All of it is that there's just a massive level of Jedis. And for the first time, Luke Skywalker sees the darkness in Ben Kenobi. The level of darkness and the level of power is so astronomical that he literally does fear that the entire universe will be destroyed because of this kid, because that's how it is. It's a balance. So if there's one bad guy and a million good guys, that one bad guy has to be as powerful as the million good guys. That's how the Force works. So I understand the fear, it may be hard, and he doesn't do it.
And he literally saw firsthand what happened to his father, and he saw this emperor who tried to get him to turn, and all of a sudden he's like having flashes of that when he's seeing this kid with the potential to go dark. Yeah, he got scared.
Totally
and what we were talking about earlier about how the Jedi were like not great folk, and like he's trying to resurrect their way of like teachings and stuff, and then it fails once again.
Right.
Yeah, and that's
so now
why
he's
he
like,
throws.
oh my god, am I gonna create the next empire? You know?
Yeah, and that's why he throws the fucking lightsaber. Like when I saw it in theaters, there was a lot about this movie I hated, and then when I watched it later on, when there wasn't a laugh track around me, I appreciated a lot of the moments. Like when he throws the lightsaber behind him, that's not funny, and it's not supposed to be funny.
Yep.
It's him saying like he tried to be a Jedi before. He was the hero that won the day and killed the bad guy, and nothing changed as the First Order still took over. And if anything, he ruined his nephew and probably did more damage to his best friend Han Solo and his sister Leia because of him. Like he feels that way. So yeah, he doesn't want anything to fucking do with being a Jedi. So he throws the lightsaber away.
Yeah. What I thought was really beautiful about how they used his character in that movie too was like you start with this grouchy, curmudgeon of Luke, saying, basically, I messed everything up because I became this legend in people's eyes, and what's that done? It's caused my, nephew to, do all these terrible things and whatever. So he feels like he's completely failed, but I feel like at the beginning of that movie, he was looking at himself in one light and thinking, hey, I was supposed to be this hero. I helped my father to defeat the Empire. I thought it was done. But I think by the end of the movie, he comes to the realization that that was never his destiny. His destiny was to inspire hope to the next generation of people, of potential Jedi or whatever. And so that's what he does in the end by going out the way he does. He is becoming a new hope, which I thought was a great way to like come back around to the beginning, the first time we saw him in the movie that's called A New Hope. Like he goes out as the new hope for the future. I thought that was brilliant.
And it ties into the title of the film.
Jedi.
No, he says that he's not the last Jedi. And I think I like the other thing that gets shit on this movie a lot is the broom boy thing. And like I think that's cool because it like kind of goes back to how we felt about the Force pre-Midichlorians, and that's why I thought that exactly. So that's why I thought that was cool. I also want to say that this is by far the best looking movie out of the entire saga. Like the cinematography, is amazing in this movie. It looks awesome.
Yeah, it's got some great shots. Like everything on Crate with like all the red all over the salt.
Yeah. So don't watch it on a fucking cam copy on your computer is what I'm trying to say.
It's on Netflix or Disney Plus or whatever. Like
you got Disney Plus, you got a 4K copy. Go rewatch it. Fix your mistakes here. You have
living
a bad
in the
tape
Middle East in the 80s, Justin. All right. One thing I do want to say that I also love, and it's part of the reason that I hated that they retconned it in episode 9, but the end part after the throne scene where you think Kylo Ren is going to be a good guy, right? Or at least there's some expectations, and then Rey's like, oh, we gotta help him. He's like, no, dude, like let the old way die, like fuck off. It's literally talking to the audience, like people like Justin that are like, oh well, my Luke Skywalker has to be my way. And it's like, no, fuck you. Like I make whatever fucking movie I want.
I felt like that was establishing they could go any direction after that.
But I fucking loved so much that that Kylo Ren is like, you're nothing to Rey, and you have no place in this story. You're not the main character. You're just
not a Palpatine.
Which is
you're
the
just
same,
a fucking nobody.
Which is the same as the broom boy. To me, it made it seem like, oh, hey, you don't have to be special to be special. Like you don't have to. It's, if anything, this is more like A New Hope, where it really is that you're just some random person who got swept up, and you're capable of inflicting so much change in the world around you because you care, and it's not because you follow some preordained destiny script, and I love that. And then they go ahead and they ruin that, but I just fucking I really think that's probably my favorite moment in the entire sequel trilogy.
So Matt, you haven't chimed in yet.
I mean, you guys have been talking and saying all the points. So I didn't think that this conversation would change my opinion on it at all. But the way that Troy puts things, at least with Luke, really, I don't know why it's never snapped into place for me, but that does make a lot of sense. It's probably because I've seen the movie exactly one time in theaters and I never wanted to see it again. But putting it that way, it does click a lot of things into place, and it does make more sense because a lot of that movie is about Luke and how he was built up to be this great big hero and he failed, and the dealing with that kind of failure and how you react to it, which is interesting. I still don't think I'd put it up as high as you guys, but
rewatch it now. Like, honestly, I don't even care about this list. Like, legitimately rewatch it by yourself, not in theaters, with like the expectations that Rian Johnson does care about Star Wars. Like, the director's commentary for this movie alone made me love it, as Rian Johnson is an actual fan of Star Wars, and everything he did, even if some of the decisions weren't great, like the casino, was out of love for the original trilogy. It's not like he's just, everyone on Twitter is like, oh, you fucking don't know the characters. Like, fuck you. He knows the characters better than you do, sitting on your fucking ass.
So I think I'll probably end up, if I rewatch it, I'll probably end up walking away from it about like where you're at with it, where I do like the stuff that they did with Rey. I probably will like the stuff that they did with Luke, and I will like the stuff at the very end with the throne room and the decisions that they made with Kylo, which I did like. I actually did think that was interesting. I don't mind that they threw away the villain. I just wish they would have stuck the landing with any of their other supporting cast characters, which they didn't really do anything with, or they went backwards in my mind. Like, they didn't do anything with Poe, really, and they didn't do anything with Finn, which kind of, I mean, I don't give a shit too much about Poe, but I do really like Finn, and I hate the fact that they threw away such an interesting concept for a character, and they didn't do anything with him.
The whole idea of a stormtrooper that, like, all of a sudden, like, realizes what's going on and leaves was brilliant, I thought. Yeah, and they didn't really capitalize on it.
Yeah, it seems like he had the same character arc in both movies. Like, he learned that he shouldn't run away at the end of Force Awakens, and then he learned the same thing at the end of this movie. I mean,
but for the right reason this time. For the right reason this time. It wasn't for pussy this time.
Yeah, and like Brianna of Tarth was supposed to be like badass too, and shouldn't fucking do anything.
Yeah, I actually forgot that she was in the movie.
Like, she was like the Boba Fett of that fucking movie. Like, she looks cool.
She really
like Boba Fett. She did nothing.
Yeah, exactly. She got held hostage like twice. Like,
right.
I don't.
I do want to say one more thing about Poe also, and this is why I think it's God tier, is there's literally every character I think I love their story, even the Finn part, you know. Poe starts the movie off being a complete asshole, thinking you can just shoot your way into
super cocky.
Like he sacrifices half of his fleet to take out one Star Destroyer or whatever they call him in this one, and like that's most of the fans also. That's why I think fans don't like it, is you think that you can just shoot your way into winning a war, and by the end of it, he realizes you actually have to like maybe take a step back, be a leader, not a gunslinger. That's how you win wars.
Which is what Leia was trying to teach him.
Yeah, which I do love that. I think that Poe actually has a ton of character development in this movie.
Agreed.
But everyone hates that purple-haired chick used the ship as a gun.
Dude, that was badass.
Yeah, that was.
No, that was badass.
Yeah,
but everything leading up to it is dumb.
Well, we can preface this, but Disney did not have a plan for these, and they just said one movie J.J. Abrams makes, then Rian Johnson, and then they're like, JJ, come back here.
Yeah, they were gonna make they were gonna do like a third person to do the third movie, and I almost wish they did.
I hate Colin Trevorrow. I'm glad that. Well, I don't know. The last movie's so fucking bad. Who knows? He couldn't have done worse. Maybe it would have been better. I don't know.
So hold on, where are we putting?
My vote is still God tier.
Pretty good or decent.
I say great.
I say God tier as well.
All right, so then it sounds like it's going somewhere. Would you put it?
Just drop it in unwatchable.
Yeah,
like we're putting it here because it's my podcast.
Would you put it after? I'd put it at. I would want Force Awakens in front of it, but
I'm fine with that.
I would put it in pretty good.
I know, but we're outnumbered here, Matt.
Just kidding. I'd put it in decent, so it goes down to pretty good.
And then, lo and behold, the end of a saga, the last Skywalker.
The Rise of Skywalker. If you asked me a year ago when the movie came out, like especially like the week I saw it, I'd tell you unwatchable behind Attack of the Clones, the worst fucking piece of trash I've ever seen. I rewatched it at some point this year. I think I may bump it up to watchable at best.
Yeah, I just rewatched it, and I mean, I would put it in watchable. I would not put it in the same category as Clone Wars, but you know, it just, I don't know. I mean, I like the fact that, you know, I guess like the end, like, you know, Rey did stuff and her and Adam Driver like tag team some shit, and then
there's some cool set pieces in the movie, I think. So like
some cool fight sequences too.
There's some cool I guess. Like, I don't know.
I like the one where the two of them are fighting and they're in different places and they kind of cross, like, you know, the two places that they're in, sort of they're intersecting. That was a neat one.
And they like hand off the lightsaber or whatever.
He died an honorable Jedi death.
Yeah, that's what I really didn't like, is like everybody keep dying and reviving each other back and forth. And
it felt too much. It just felt too much like Darth Vader going down to save Luke at the end of Return of the Jedi. You know, it just felt like they kind of just rehashed that.
Yeah, if you want to talk about Finn getting shelved, here's your boy.
Rose. How about Rose? They practically threw her character away. She's just like in the background.
Well, it's because after she got shit on Twitter after The Last Jedi, they were like, okay, we need to get this chick out of here.
Every bad thing you could say about The Last Jedi is 10 times worse in Rise of the Skywalker. Almost identically. Like, oh wait, I'm not gonna lie. I think this is not just the worst movie on this list. I think it's one of the worst movies ever created. I think that it's like it's borderline's Battlefield Earth level quality, and it's not visually. It's an amazing movie, and I think that a lot of the characters had to do what they could with what they had. And I have no idea what J.J. Abrams wanted to do or any of the back end stuff. But as a plot, this is probably one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. It was so bad that like people were, you know, laughing at it at moments for how dumb it fucking was in the theaters. Like they kill off like 5 different people and bring all of them back to life almost instantaneously. One of them twice. Right.
I spent the whole movie like face palmed like this, like in the theater. Like I was groaning. The second it went to credits, I stood up and bolted. Like I was so upset with how bad it was.
There's a part that I cannot stand where like there's a plot to like get a knife because the knife is a map, but the map was constructed. If you stand on this specific cliff edge on this planet,
and hold this dagger up here.
The ruins that, and you had to make sure you had the right arm length for this one. And the ruins didn't shift at all when the knife was made or anything in this giant ocean to find the room that no scavenger has looked in at all beforehand. Like, even though it's a planet of scavengers that literally have said that they've been in that planet and it's pitch dry. Like it's such a bad like MacGuffin. It's such a like, well, we don't know how to get from this scene to this scene, so let's just introduce this ridiculously very unwell thought map idea that I thought was just one of the worst things I've ever seen in a movie.
Troy, it's a video game fetch quest. It's fine.
It's so fucking trash. They heal off Chewie to not heal off Chewie. They erase C-3PO's brain to not erase his brain. You want to talk about Princess Leia being able to do something that they've never once introduced. When was she apparently an actual Jedi with a lightsaber training with Luke Skywalker for apparently 30 fucking years? That's never even been mentioned in any of the expanded
universe. It hasn't been, but they needed to justify why she was force sensitive.
I'm pretty sure I heard it was in the expanded universe. I didn't read like the books and everything, but I know people who have. I thought that was a thing. Like she was supposed to be one of the.
Indeed, it is. Yes.
Oh well. Anyways, I don't like it, so sus. All right.
And she didn't train with them for very long. Remember, because Luke even said in that movie, like she got to a point where she realized that she wasn't.
But she had a lightsaber that apparently had meaning in Episode 9, and Like, why did she not give it to Rey in previously? I just felt it was so weirdly forced and so like weirdly presented. Like, I don't care that she has powers. There's been plenty of times where, like, you know, in Rogue One, Donnie Yen, like, he doesn't have powers, but there's like, all right, like the Force does help him out. It does help people out. But having someone who apparently had been through like years of Jedi training, and then like, but we never knew about it. I don't know. I just thought that was so bad.
See, that's my thing. Like, her being Force sensitive, like, I have no problem with that. Like, her being able to detect when Han died and shit. Like, that makes sense. Like, I get that. I could not get past her being able to, a full adult body, being able to drag through space when she doesn't use the Force all the time. And so I'm like, how are you this proficient in it when never...
It shouldn't take much to drag yourself through space. There's no atmosphere.
I actually felt that was more a bodily reaction.
So how would you know how much power she has? You haven't seen what she's been doing for 30 years.
Exactly.
Nobody has.
So why is it so hard to accept?
Hold on. I want to say that he has no problem with the several other brand new Jedi powers, like fucking passing a lightsaber through time and space portals. That's fine. But being able to force pull yourself somewhere, which has been done before, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, you're not going to win this one.
I'm not. It's my opinion, Tanner. I can have it.
They're a Force dyad, guys.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Exactly. I guess her midichlorian levels are stronger than I thought. Like,
I just want to say that I'm so happy that Rise of Skywalker didn't end up in The Last Jedi didn't end up in the bottom half, because I love it so much, and I'm always the only one that likes it.
I was so
always
afraid.
Get shit on it.
I went into this feeling like the four of you were going to say it was unwatchable, and this was going to be another Black Panther situation.
Yeah, I thought there was going to be a fist fight on that one. So for me on Rise of Skywalker, I actually enjoyed it a lot the first time I saw it, and I was really high on it for like a little while, and I was like thinking about it and trying to be like objective about it. I was like, no, it was really good. And then the second time I saw it twice in the theater, and the second time I saw it, I realized that the biggest problem with that movie is most of the coolest parts of that movie are only cool the first time when it's a surprise. And then after that, it doesn't like have a lot of lasting like meaning or impression. It's just a lot of like, it's almost like jump scares in a scary movie. It's just a lot of like stuff that's going to make you go, oh my God, the first time. And then once you know what happens in the end, you're just like, it doesn't have the same effect. I don't know. Like, I didn't think it was a terrible movie. All the points that Troy was just making are absolutely valid. Like, those are some of the big faults in the movie. And I feel like it has a lot of faults. And I feel like it felt way too much like Return of the Jedi, with the whole, like, you know, the bad guy, quote unquote bad guy, sacrificing himself at the end to defeat the bigger bad guy, and that whole thing. I would have loved to have seen something different from both Rey and Kylo Ren. I would have loved to have seen their characters do something more than just kind of like what seemed like the easy way out. It also bothers me. Like, at first I was a little like put off by the idea that they brought Palpatine back. But at the same time, I have to admit that ever since I was a kid watching Return of the Jedi, there's something about watching him fall down that like chute that I just never really felt like I got closure on his character. I never really felt like just seeing him go down there and seeing a bunch of blue like energy floating up was enough to confirm for me that dude was 100% dead. So bringing him back and being able to see them kill him off like once and for all felt really satisfying. So I kind of felt like that was the ending I needed for that character. But to kill him by just like holding two lightsabers and pushing,
boy.
I'm like, really?
One lightsaber.
Like, so that's
but two lightsabers. Well, this motherfucker has died from lightning 3 fucking times.
This is what what's funny is that's what Mace Windu was trying to do. If he only had 2 lightsabers, he could have done it.
Right? Oh no. I thought the Palpatine shit was so fucking stupid. Like, I will agree with you that him falling down a tunnel is not confirmation of death, especially when the previous movie, we literally saw Luke Skywalker fall down a tunnel and he was fine.
And now Darth Maul's come back from falling
down
exactly.
And
being cut in half.
But
there was no mention of Palpatine in the previous 2 movies. And
the way they do it too, it isn't like some bit reveal like he's been pulling strings. It was just like within the first 2 minutes of the movie.
Like,
it's Palpatine. He's here. He's a clone. Maybe I don't know.
And he's got an army of freakish people that like worshiping him.
It's so,
like, who are these people?
Like,
they don't
out of
explain
nowhere.
He's got a bajillion Star Destroyers underground that can just like come out of the dirt now.
Which also apparently Kylo Ren and Rey spends the majority of the movie trying to find this secret planet that no one can find, but then Lando Calrissian and him with like 500 ships and be like, oh, we found it. It was on Google Maps. You know, like, it was no problem. I don't know why it took you guys fucking 2 hours to get here.
Right. That's a good point. Well, and it would have been nice if they didn't invent some new planet Exegol for this whole thing. Like, why not use Malachor or whatever, other Sith planets they've come up with in like video games and extended universe? Pull some of those into the lore again and make that the place that you go to. But another big thing, and this is probably the one thing that's eaten at me the most with that movie, and it's a silly little thing, but it's like, honestly, it was on the top of my mind when I first saw it, and it still bothers me to this day that the lightsabers that she takes to defeat the Emperor were the quote-unquote Skywalker lightsaber, the blue one, and then Leia's old one, which is also blue. How much better would it have been if she took Leia's lightsaber, the blue one, and then Luke's green lightsaber? We don't know where the fuck it is. Did Luke just throw it away? Probably. If she had both of those, I just thought that would have been so much more like fitting if she had the Luke and Leia Skywalker lightsabers together and it's like 2 different colors. And then it especially bothers me because at the end of the movie, when she goes back to the Skywalker homestead on Tatooine and she buries the lightsabers, it's Leia's lightsaber and fucking Anakin's lightsaber that she buries at Luke's home. I'm like, why not Luke and Leia's lightsabers? And their ghosts are watching right there. Why is it not the green lightsaber? It bothered me so much. So...
And she's Rey Skywalker.
Yeah.
Oh my
God. Whatever.
She truly was the last Skywalker.
They started the movie off also with like the vat of clones. Like when they introduced Palpatine, they introduced like that Snoke apparently was a clone of Palpatine or something.
Like,
I don't know. They're not very clear, right? But I thought, oh man, like while I was watching the movies, like what if Rey is a clone of Palpatine and they bring back, as he was the one who was fighting with the clone army before. What if they bring back clones? Like, oh, that might have actually been a whole twist, but no, it's just Palpatine had it hid. And
like when did that happen?
And apparently that hid.
Palpatine fucks.
Yeah, well, I'm fine with that. I'm sure Palpatine does, and it's very vicious. I'm sure. But the fact that like you legitimately think that guy who's so fucked up that he comes up with a 10-year plan to manipulate the entire government and then is the emperor and doing very evil shit for 40 years would have a son that he would allow to be like, oh, a hippy dippy good guy who marries someone he loves, and then it was like, are you fucking kidding me with that shit? Like that's so unrealistic.
That doesn't make sense. Okay, so is it unwatchable or watchable?
my vote is actually decent. I'll put it at the back of decent, but I think it's decent.
I would put it in watchable. Like, I don't think it deserves to be unwatchable with Clone Wars, but
like I said a year ago after one watch I would have told you unwatchable, but after 2 watches I'll give it watchable.
Sure.
I say so unwatchable we shouldn't even add it to the list. Leave it where it is. Take a screenshot.
So here's my thing. Like with the ending to the last movie, like assume this movie never happened, and probably for better or worse, we could just all assume it didn't. Where could you have gone with the Kylo Rey plot? Like you don't have a big bad anymore. Well, Kylo's arguably the big bad, but not.
Well, I just never wanted Kylo to be redeemed. I just wanted him to just go down the way that he stood on the hill. Is how I wanted it to be. But
I thought also like when I was watching the end of The Last Jedi, the first time, I thought, oh man, it would have been awesome if Rey would have left with him and they would have had like a romantic relationship, you know. But then seeing that in Rise of the Skywalker, it felt really forced and weird. So I no longer, I don't think that them hissing at the end, it felt really weird and like not organic in any way.
Yeah.
Especially,
that's what
especially, oh, you want to talk about ruining Finn too? Like, I never personally liked Finn and Rey being together, as I'm against interracial marriages, but
we know.
I didn't think I wanted Finn and Poe to get together and really fuck up the fucking Phantom Menace. But that so many people would have been pissed off by that. But anyways, regardless, it did seem
great.
Organically like Finn and Rey did have this relationship going. And then then say what you will about The Last Jedi, but in Rise of the Skywalker, they almost purposely are like, no, Rey has to be with Kylo, even though it doesn't make sense organically. And also, we have to make sure that Finn has a black girlfriend that we have to create for no reason, who's Billy D. Williams' daughter, because there's only 3 black families in all of the Star Wars universe, and then let's force them together, even though I would prefer Finn to have wound up with Rose than some randomly introduced character for the purpose, you know?
In that movie with Finn, they kept having him throughout the whole movie be like, I have something to tell you, and he never does. He never tells it. And then J.J. Abrams was like, oh yeah, he's force sensitive, he's gonna tell her that.
Oh,
like, what the fuck is that about? What do you mean? That has nothing to do with the movie. There's no indication
that wouldn't have made sense.
Nobody
if
would have got
that at the end, I would have been more upset than him not saying anything.
Well, him having
I thought he was gonna tell her that he loved her, of course. That's what the assumption always was, but he's like, oh no, he was going to tell her that he's force sensitive.
Well,
and then the audience would have been like, duh.
Well, the thing that I don't like that he's force sensitive at all, because that's another thing that just goes to show
it's
that
just random.
Didn't know what they were doing. They were like, he has force powers. I don't know. Fuck off. Like I'm not here to write a story about Finn. Like, oh, they did in the holiday special, the Leo holiday special that they just put out.
Oh, did they?
Are they going to reboot the Star Wars quadrilogy?
But yeah, no, I think that they just any damage that you think that The Last Jedi did to Finn was done exponentially in this movie, so much so that I don't think they had any idea they knew what they were going to do with him, and so they were throwing darts at a board.
Well, Rise of Skywalker doesn't just damage Finn's character; it damages a lot of what happened in Last Jedi. That's like the worst thing about that movie, is that it hurt the previous movie so much.
I felt that movie was co-written by Reddit. Like every single problem that someone had with The Last Jedi, and so I'm not gonna sit here and rant on Justin. He didn't like the movie, right? I think that you and Matt should rewatch it and give it another shot, right?
All right, I will give you that. I will rewatch the movie.
But regardless, the fact that they bent over backwards to appease all the people who hated that movie in unreal, another thing, you have Luke Skywalker throw away the lightsaber in episode 8. Now I liked that, but a lot of people on Reddit didn't like that. So what do? They purposely put in a really gross line as Force Ghost Luke saying that's a Jedi's weapon. You don't throw that away. Like, you motherfucker, you just did that 3 months ago when you were alive. Like, it just felt like it was
that one wasn't his, it was his dad's. He had his own.
It felt like it made all the Reddit people who complained about the Last Jedi happy with so many things that just purposely rolled back shit, like especially the Snoke thing. I loved that Snoke was a guy and that Kylo Ren killed him off and we don't have to know his backstory. And then they were like, well, no, he was a clone of Palpatine.
I still wanted to know his backstory, but I
know that Reddit didn't like Snoke. So I'm going to go ahead and say that he was a clone so you don't have to worry about him. That's why I felt a lot of that movie.
Yeah, it felt like it was very much just trying to like appease people and not hitting the mark.
So, were we gonna? I mean, I would put it in watchable.
That's where I would put it.
I would put it in watchable.
I think that makes sense because I said decent. We had at least one unwatchable, and then most, I think they were watchable.
I think it's garbage, and you should all be ashamed.
All right. As long as that's how Troy feels. All
We're
right.
putting it at the back of watchable, though, just to be clear.
Yeah, this is the back of watchable.
That's the back of watchable.
I would be fine with either of the bottom two, but I just meant on rewatch, I think it was slightly better than I originally thought it was.
All right. So now, looking at this list, is there anything that you would like bump up or down, or does this look?
I think it's fine.
I still stand with everything that I said. I still don't think that Rogue One's a good movie, and I still think that Last Jedi is really fucking good. But
I will give you. All right, here I'll trade you. Rogue One down to pretty good if you say that Episode 2 is watchable.
No,
I'm not taking that deal.
Nobody's gonna say that.
I knew from the get-go of this tier list, I was like, anything is going anywhere. I was like, this fucking movie is going in unwatchable. I don't care about anything else.
Yeah.
That was the hill Justin was gonna die on.
Yeah. I watched this on DVD. I mean, I didn't even watch The Last Jedi on fucking in HD. It was on some shaky cam with people walking in front of the fucking screen, and that still got a higher ranking than Clone Wars. So,
well, the interesting thing, if we don't move everything, is if you take a look here, Disney's actually doing pretty good.
Yeah,
they've got all greats in one barely watchable film.
That's true.
Yeah, and I mean, if Mandalorian was on here, I'd put that in God tier. So.
Oh yeah, no shit. Yeah, that and Rebels, I'd throw up there.
Clone Wars.
Definitely.
Yeah, well, Dave Filoni just like in my mind, Dave Filoni's the new George Lucas.
Yeah, that's a
fact. So in 20 years, he'll probably make complete trash and retcon his own content.
Yeah.
And then they're gonna put George Lucas's conscious in a C-3PO.
I just want to say, I just want to strongly suggest that the flaws of Episode 2 from Anakin Skywalker don't make the entire movie unwatchable compared to the problems that you guys have said about the movies that are above it. You know, like I'm just saying the Obi-Wan Kenobi shit in Episode 2, the Palpatine stuff in Episode 2. No one has said that Obi-Wan Kenobi's, which is half of the fucking movie, is bad, but apparently that's worse than movies.
No, I think it's bad.
Damn it.
What about like the beginning the scenes where they're in like the space taxis and then he chases him down? He's like, you don't want to sell me death sticks. And then he goes to the diner and talks to the alien guy. And then
he didn't know what the diner guy looked like. That was all
spanked by Jango Fett. He just talks to some clones. He's like, oh.
And how many times does he have to have like dialogue with Anakin where he calls him my very young apprentice? It just gets really old.
He's got a mullet the whole movie. Like
that's not a bad thing. All right. Snake has a mullet and escaped from New York. You're telling me that's a bad movie?
Well, no, it works there.
By the way, I wanted to bring up the one thing that I think is actually like the best part of the last movie of Episode 9, which is that one scene with 3PO and R2-D2 when 3PO comes back after they wiped his memories, and he sees R2 and R2 like it's like that moment where like before he left, R2 said something to 3PO and he said something like I think it's 3PO called him his best friend or something like that, right? And then afterwards they wipe his memory. He comes back. R2 rolls up to him, starts beeping at him, and he just looks at him and says, "What?" Or like he says, "Oh, I'm C-3PO, Human Cyborg Relations. Nice to meet you." And R2 rolls back like, "What the fuck?" And he makes some noises. And 3PO says, "Best friend? Oh, I'm sure I would remember that." So like in that moment, I felt like there was like this subtext, like R2-D2 has always been that character throughout the movies where you're like, oh, I think I know what he's saying. And in that scene, I felt like you knew exactly what he felt and what he was saying to 3PO. And he felt like betrayed and devastated. And it made me so sad. I was like, oh my God, that's such a like touching scene. Like R2 basically telling 3PO like, oh, but you're my best friend. What happened to you? You know, and for him to say that when I feel like R2 is sort of like a dick throughout most of the movie, it's like, oh, whatever, you know, I got this. I don't need your help. I'll go do this by myself. And then at the end, he finally tells 3PO, like, you're my best friend.
Yeah, I did appreciate how big of a character 3PO was in the last
that would have
movie.
been cool if they didn't immediately retcon it and give him his memories back.
Hey, we never talked about how dope what's his face is BB-8. BB-8 was a great addition.
Oh yeah,
he was.
I liked him a lot.
It was a great addition to Star Wars.
I actually like BB-8 more than R2-D2. I know that's not a popular thing, but
no, BB-8's awesome. I love BB-8.
The droid in Solo was freaking cool too. The one that essentially becomes the Millennium Falcon's computer or whatever.
Oh yeah.
I thought you were going to talk about the one that Donald Glover fucks.
Oh, that's the same one. That's the one.
Yeah.
That's the one.
That's the one, baby.
You know, she's like, oh yeah, we have a relationship.
And the thing is, the fact that Donald Glover has sex with a robot, I'm fine with that, right?
We don't know that he had sex with
in
her.
real life. This is separate from the movies. But
okay.
No. The fact that Lando Calrissian being a ladies' man and having a sex doll at home, all right, whatever. I don't care. But that was like the fact that they had like that back and forth with Emilia Clarke, where it's like she's like, oh well, it would never work, you know, but it does. We fought. I thought that was so weirdly like gross and forced into that scene. I don't know. I
didn't think the droid was literally trying to say that they have like sexual relations.
Emilia Clarke says, well, how would that even work? And the robot turns around and is like, oh, it works.
But does that have to be actual physical sex? You know, she's just talking about we have a relationship. We're like, you know, we care about each other.
I read between the lines. They fought.
Maybe. Unclear.
Yeah, there you go. Man, well, that's the list.
Troy really wants Attack of the Clones to get a higher choice here, but it's not going to happen.
Pushed so hard.
All right, I'm just saying. All right, not just is that unwatchable, but also the other thing I was worried about was The Last Jedi, and I want it to be God tier, but it's not God tier, you know. And
I agree.
I think Return of the Jedi should be bumped down to watchable, but it's decent along with two other movies that I think are better than it. You know, I don't know.
It's on the low end of decent.
I don't think episode 1 is decent either. I think that's worse than that. I think that's borderline unwatchable too. So I mean, I don't have one problem with this list. Like half of the movies I think are in the wrong spot.
Dude, Troy's gonna retcon the entire.
I mean, I would move a lot of stuff myself, but in a democracy, I think this is where we're landing.
I am the what's he say? I am the
Metacritic score.
Yeah, this is the new list that I'm gonna carry around in my pocket. So then
what's
when
the
I see
line
Brandon,
from the prequel trilogy? Like, this is how democracy dies.
Yeah, with thunderous applause.
Yes, that's.
I was thinking about the other one, the Obi-Wan line where he's talking to Anakin. I think he's like, "This is my allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy."
Yeah. Well, I'm over here trying to be like, I am the Senate. God damn it.
Power.
Exactly. Unlimited power.
Justin, do the sign off.
That's it. It's done.